Chapter 1327. This group of martial artists who came on flying swords numbered about 20 or so. They seemed to be in their 20s or 30s, but their cultivation was actually all in the lower void-piercing realm. He knew that the upper realm had stronger heaven and earth attributes and laws, but a disciple of a Xian-level sect could casually come out with so many martial emperors. This was too casual. According to the black and white Rakshasa, Jun Changxiao not only knew that there were sects in the upper realm, but there were also 4 levels: Xian, True, Dao, and Celestial. The Sword Xian sect that these people mentioned had the word Xian in its name, so it was obviously the lowest level. Even so, it could still beat the entire mortal universe. After all, any disciple who flew here casually had the strength of a lower void-piercing realm. Jun Changxiao, who could do whatever he wanted in the lower realm, was scared. It was not because he was afraid of the power of this group of generals, but because there were still 3 months left. He had to avoid trouble and do proper business. The host has changed, the system said. To put it bluntly, it's considering the big picture, but to put it nicely, it's that you've grown a brain. Jun Changxiao roared. Then don't say nice things, say more nasty things. Lost. The leading disciple of the Sword Xian sect said coldly. This land of cold snow is covered with layers of formations. Do you think it's your own backyard, and you can barge in carelessly? The major sects in the upper realm were like countries. Not only did they have their own mountains, but they also had their own boundaries. Especially in special places, it was a bit of a problem to barge in without permission. Jun Changxiao was very depressed. He really did not want to appear here. But the problem was that he was sent by the fortune of heaven and earth great array, so he did not have the right to choose his own direction. Hee. Jun Changxiao pretended to be stupid and smiled. Sorry for disturbing, I'll leave now. Shwa. He leaped into the air, and then landed back down. Shwa. He jumped again and landed again. Sorry. Jun Changxiao scratched his head awkwardly and said, It's my first time here, so I'm a bit nervous. Let me try a few more times. The Sword Xian sect disciple looked at him, as if he was an idiot. Shwa. Shwa. Whoosh. Jun Changxiao hopped a few more times like a grasshopper, but in the end, he landed steadily on the ground. Thus he roared in his heart. Why can't I fly? The system said. The heavenly axiom's binding power here is 1,000 times stronger than the upper realm. With the host's current cultivation level, it's impossible to fly freely. The mortal planes all had their own systems. After reaching a certain level, one would be able to transcend the shackles. In the higher level planes, the shackles would definitely be stronger. Unless one relied on a flying treasure, such as the flying swords that the disciples of the Sword Mystic sect were standing on. Jun Changxiao was on the verge of breaking down. In other words, not only am I in trouble right now, but I can't even escape with the power of flight. I'm like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. They can't beat the host, the system said. Of course, Jun Changxiao knew the answer to this question. However, he had just snuck up here, and they had arrived on their flying swords. Who knew if there were even stronger experts? If he fought one batch after another, would he still be able to do his job? The system said, Host, you can't fly or burrow into the ground now. You can only fight them head-on. Ka. At this moment, light flickered behind Jun Changxiao's back. Steel wings gathered, and then with a swoosh, he flew into the sky. Ha. This thing can be used. The system was silent because it had been slapped in the face again. Jun Changxiao suddenly flew away in front of their eyes with the help of the mechanical armed wings, causing the disciples of the Sword Mystic sect to be stunned. The leader was the first to come back to his senses and said angrily, Don't let him escape, chase after him. Swoosh. 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 In an instant, 20 flying swords dragged streaks of light behind them, as they streaked across the vast expanse of white snow, creating a gorgeous and colorful scene. One had to admit that the upper realm space barrier was really stable. If it was in the lower realm, just a few dozen lower void-piercing realm cultivators would be able to form an aura that could distort space. However, here, it did not cause the slightest ripple at all. Swoosh. Jun Changxiao, who was supported by the mechanical armed wings, escaped at top speed. However, he could clearly sense that the speed was not very fast, and was not on the same level as the flying swords. Thief, don't run. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. At this moment, the disciples of the Sword Mystic Sect, who were chasing behind him, raised their fingers one after another, condensing a similar sword aura and blasted it. Although Jun Changxiao dodged easily, because he dodged left and right, his speed was reduced, and the distance between the two was suddenly shortened by a lot. If his mechanical armed wings and the flying swords of the Sword Mystic Sect disciples were described as horses, one was a normal level, and the other was a 1,000-mile level. There was no comparison at all. Hello everyone, I am Jun Changxiao, a middle void piercing realm cultivator. Now, I am being chased by 20 lower void piercing realm cultivators. I am panicking because their horses run faster than mine. Swoosh, swoosh. A sharp sword-like light burst out. Jun Changxiao dealt with it easily, but the distance was also infinitely shortened, and it would only take a few minutes to catch up. Damn it! I am not running anymore. Ta! After escaping for about 100 miles, Jun Changxiao landed on an empty snowy ground. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In an instant, 20 disciples of the Sword Mystic Sect flew over, and they quickly scattered and surrounded him. Clang! The green dragon crescent blade appeared out of thin air and smashed on the ground, sweeping away layers of thick snow. You guys, Jun Changxiao said with a cold gaze. This is a bit too much. This kind of line was usually reserved for the enemies of the lower realm. Today, when it was said by Go Sheng, why did it sound so comfortable? Kid, the leader said coldly. It seems that you should be a spy sent by the Ice Blade Mystic Sect. Jun Changxiao was also considered experienced. He immediately realized that this inference must be due to the green dragon crescent blade that he used. I don't want to explain. Either you let me leave, or become a soul under the blade. His gaze gradually became cold, and killing intent gathered in his words. Angry? Angry? Do you really think I am a good person? The disciples of the Sword Mystic Sect obviously didn't understand Jun Changxiao's character and sneered. Since you are here, don't think about leaving. Schwa. As soon as he finished speaking, a green blade light directly pressed down on him. He was so shocked that he hurriedly drove his flying sword to retreat, but it was already too late. He could only use his sword to block. Ding! Crack! The green blade light gradually dissipated, and the thick snow on the ground was splashed into the air. The Sword Mystic Sect disciple staggered and fell to the ground. The sharp sword in his hand had been cut into two, and he was instantly stunned. The sword that was personally strengthened and blessed by the sect's sword casting hall elder was actually cut in half so easily. Was this guy that strong? Or, the quality of the blade in his hand was high? Ninth senior brother, his companions exclaimed in unison. Go, go, go. That person shouted angrily. Regardless of whether the opponent was strong or had a strong weapon, it meant that he was definitely not a good person. Therefore, there was no need to be polite. Whoosh, whoosh. The 19 disciples of the Sword Mystic Sect received the order and drove the flying swords under their feet. They either gathered a powerful finger light or took out their weapons to press down on Jun Changxiao. Whoosh whoosh. Jun Changxiao raised the green dragon crescent blade to fight, and his cultivation also fully erupted. Not good. He's a middle void piercing stage. The Sword Mystic Sect disciple who pressed forward finally saw Jun Changxiao's true strength, but it was already too late, because the gorgeous blade light filled the sky in the snowflakes, suddenly interweaving into a different kind of beauty. Ding! Pong! Puchi! Putong! A few minutes later, a Sword Mystic Sect disciple was directly chopped into pieces and fell to the ground. An eye-catching blade mark appeared on his chest, and blood was spurting out. As for the other 18 companions, they were already injured and struggling on the ground. Whoosh! Jun Changxiao, who was standing in the crowd with his blade, struck a pose while lighting the cigar in his mouth. Then he took a puff and blew out a smoke ring. Only then did he say indifferently, "If a tiger doesn't show its power, you think I'm a sick cat? Stop pretending," the system said. Take advantage of now and run. Schwa. Jun Changxiao waved his hand and put all the flying swords scattered on the ground into the spatial ring. Since this thing could allow a lower void-piercing stage to fly easily, it must be a good treasure. He could keep it for himself, or give it to the disciples who came up in the future. Gosheng loves money, don't have it, just rob. The system complained. Shua. Jun Changxiao took out a flying sword, forcibly erased the soul imprint inside, and then stepped on it, saying confidently, "Go!" Whoosh! The flying sword cut through the sky. However, when the camera moved back, it was discovered that the sword had flown away, and Jun Changxiao was left behind. Moreover, it was upside down in the snow. Obviously, he was not familiar with flying sword for the first time, and directly caused the entire section to collapse. Chapter 1328. Whoosh! The sword light cut through the void and traveled in the flying snow. Jun Changxiao's posture was a little crooked as he stepped on it. However, after gradually finding the balance, it began to look like it. After all, the realm was here, and the ability to learn was very strong. It can fly. It can act cool. This thing is really good. Jun Changxiao, who was flying on the sword, had his hands behind his back, bent his waist, and even flew left and right as if he was performing acrobatics. Is it fun? Yes. Do you know how to play? Yes. You haven't played before, right? No. Jun Changxiao hurriedly adjusted his posture and frowned. What are you talking about? Let's go. The system was speechless. Let's hurry up and find a way to leave this snowy land. Maybe the powerhouses of the Sword Mystic Sect are on the way. That's right. Jun Changxiao became serious. Any random disciple sent out was at the lower level of the void-piercing realm. Wouldn't the higher-ups of the Mystic Sect be at the middle or upper level? With all kinds of trump cards. Gosheng was not afraid, but he was afraid that time would be delayed, and he would not be able to complete the seemingly impossible main mission. The area covered by snow was extremely large. Due to the harsh environment, there were no villages or towns. Jun Changxiao flew for a full 2 hours before reaching the edge of the area, and was blocked by layers of solid enchantments. The territory of the Sword Mystic Sect is really vast. According to preliminary calculations, the area of the upper realm is at least 100 times larger than the Falling Star continent. Interesting. Jun Changxiao's eyes were burning. The bigger the upper realm, the more people there were, and the more powerhouses there were. Bringing the sect of all times up and developing it to become the strongest would definitely give him a greater sense of achievement. Humans. They were all ambitious. Coming to a new plane and experiencing new attributes, they naturally had new pursuits, although it might just be a random thought in the heat of the moment. Whoosh! Jun Changxiao opened his eyes wide and released his spiritual sense into the barrier, beginning to rely on the formation-breaking chapter of Chimen Duanjia to try to break it. The system wanted to speak. Whoosh! All of a sudden, the formation barrier that existed in the surroundings dissipated. The system almost cursed out loud. In the past, as soon as he said something, he would be slapped in the face. Now, before he even said anything, he would be slapped in the face in advance. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, I thought that the formations of the upper realm were very powerful, but now it seems that they are not even half as strong as the Starry Sky Fortress. Nonsense. The defensive system of the fortress was set up by the Realm Hall. Although it had been around for a long time, its scale and strength were enough to kill a Xian-ranked sect, even in the upper realm. He's gone, he's gone. Jun Changxiao was about to control the flying sword. Suddenly, his expression changed, and he hurriedly dodged to the left. Swish! He only saw a sword light silently slashing past his neck. If his reaction was a little slower, his head would definitely fall to the ground. Shwa! At this moment, a slight sound of wind breaking came from behind him. More sword lights were pressing down on him. Jun Changxiao dodged left and right. He dodged left and right until he dodged all of them. Then he fell to the ground in a sorry state. No wonder you can injure my fellow sect member. You have some ability. A cold and arrogant voice came. Jun Changxiao raised his head and looked over. He saw a flying sword shrouded in multicolored radiance, several hundred feet away. A man in his 20s or 30s was standing on top of the flying sword. The exquisite jade box in front of him was open and floating in the air. There were 6 small sword slots inside. If there were martial artists from the upper realm present, they would immediately recognize that this was Lin Lang, the chief disciple of the Imperial Sword Sect. Because he always carried the box with the 6 swords, he was also known as the Gentleman of 6 Swords. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 6 sword lights that failed to attack drew an arc and flew over. They turned into pocket-sized shapes and were placed in the 6 sword slots. Damn! Jun Changxiao's horizons were broadened. Playing with swords, he could even play such tricks. He was indeed impressive. You trespassed into the territory of the Imperial Sword Sect and severely injured our disciples. Now you have broken the formation barrier. Do you think you can still leave? Lin Lang said lightly. This person's tone was cold and arrogant. It was understandable. After all, as the chief disciple of the inner sect, his strength had reached the middle stage of the void-piercing realm. Of course, Jun Changxiao would never think that this person and the 20 Imperial Sword Sect disciples who fought with him before were really only in their 20s or 30s. Their actual age was probably at least 300 to 500 years old. No, the system said, at most 100 years old. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Breaking through the middle stage of the void-piercing realm at the age of 100 years old. And it was the path of the sword. People from the upper realm were too monstrous. Compared to the host, he can only be considered a younger brother. The system said. That was right. After all, Goxing only used 10 years to reach the middle stage of the void-piercing realm. Even if the other party was 100 years old, it was still 10 times faster. Even so, Jun Changxiao said unhappily, I'm not as arrogant as him. The system was speechless. You're always extorting and resisting the sanctions of the upper realm. You even blew up the Starry Sky Fortress. Are you not arrogant enough? Or is it that as long as you're not riding on the sky and standing shoulder to shoulder with the sun, all your actions are simple and unpretentious? Itue. The system really could not stand this kind of pretentious person, who thought he was always low-key. Sorry. Jun Changxiao shrugged and said, if I want to leave, no one can stop me. If I don't leave, no one can chase me away. Lin Lang said lightly, is that so? Swoosh. With a light wave of his finger, the 6 needle-sized swords in the box flew out again and shone with a sharp light. If you want to fight, come down and fight. What kind of hero are you if you fly in the sky? Jun Changxiao said. Ta. Lin Lang actually landed and said, the punishment for 3 crimes. Today, I'll cripple both of your hands and one of your legs. You can't. Jun Changxiao raised his index finger and shook it provocatively. Lin Lang's gaze turned cold. The 6 sword lights hanging in front of the box suddenly shot out and quickly expanded to the size of a normal sword. Swoosh. Jun Changxiao summoned the green dragon crescent blade again. The blade stuck close to the snow and sped forward. When the sword lights were about to reach him, he suddenly swept up layers of snow and slashed. Ding! 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 The sword and blade collided like striking jade and striking gold. Swoosh! After Jun Changxiao broke through the 6 sword lights, he rolled his body like he was performing an opera. In the end, he slashed down with great force. The sword light that tore the soil apart blasted toward the area where Lin Lang was. Swoosh! Wherever the sword light passed, the figure disappeared. Jun Changxiao released his spiritual sense and quickly noticed that the other party had appeared behind him without him noticing. Thus he said in surprise, is this a movement technique? Or a magical ability? Sword of 6 directions. Lin Lang shouted coldly. Instantly, an extremely strong sword force appeared around him. The 6 swords that were sent flying suddenly changed direction and quickly enlarged to slash toward him. Ding! 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 Metal and stone collided. Sparks flew everywhere. The enlarged swords carried more power. Although Jun Changxiao could contend with them, he was also retreating as he fought. He thought to himself, this guy's strength is far stronger than the 12 wardens. The system said, if each tiger is compared to the strength of 1 tiger, then this person's strength is at least the strength of 2 tigers. After all, he has the support of swordsmanship. After retreating dozens of steps, Jun Changxiao put away the green dragon crescent blade before the other 6 swords launched a new round of attacks. He summoned Jade Dragon, asked the heavens, and said, "I'm going to get serious now." Lin Lang said calmly, "Your sword is trash." Jun Changxiao was speechless. Although his sword was not the best in the lower realm, it was still considered outstanding. Now it was trash in the eyes of others. "It's normal," the system said. "Now, except for the Sky Hegemon Spear, Xianyuan Divine Armor, Great Sage Set, and Hard to Retract Blade, which cost a lot of contribution points, the rest of the equipment in the upper realm are almost worthless. That's why," Jun Changxiao said to himself. "Coming here, not only do I have to choose a place with good feng shui for the sect to settle down, I also have to find some high-grade equipment. Otherwise, how can I survive in the future? It's more appropriate to change looking to snatch," the system said. Swoosh! Jun Changxiao rushed over with his sword and said coldly, "The path of swordsmanship is not a competition of the sword, but of the heart of the sword." Buzz buzz buzz! The air suddenly trembled slightly. The stones, branches, and other things that were covered in snow flew out on their own. Then, they flew over in the shape of a sword and followed behind him like a whirlpool. Lin Lang's expression changed. The sword intent in Jun Changxiao's eyes, the sword force released from his body, and the sword moves he used were all above him. It was him. He was definitely not from the High Blade sect. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, the tens of thousands of sword auras gathered behind Jun Changxiao instantly gathered together and turned into a huge thorn-shaped sword. The powerful sword aura that erupted from it directly tore apart layers of thick snow and swept up 3 feet of frozen soil, leaving a deep and long ditch in its wake. Boom! The sound of the explosion reverberated in the cold sky. The tip of the giant sword formed by the sect returning 10,000 swords directly pierced the defensive barrier that Lin Lang set up in a hurry. Then, cracks gradually appeared until it completely exploded with a bang. Thump thump thump. The head disciple of the High Blade sect staggered back dozens of steps. His face was extremely pale. In the end, he couldn't help but spit out blood. Swoosh! Swoosh! The 6 flying swords seemed to have lost their connection with their owners. They all lost their colors and stabbed into the ground. Seriously? Jun Changxiao walked over and shook his head. "You're too weak." Swoosh! With a wave of his hand, he kept the 6 swords into the space ring and said proudly, "When you have a deeper understanding of the path of swordsmanship, come to the sect of all times and ask for weapons from me." "You." Whoosh! Jun Changxiao stepped on his flying sword and left in a carefree manner. Pooh! Seeing the 6 treasured swords that had followed him for dozens of years being snatched away, Lin Lang couldn't suppress the boiling blood in his body again. Injuring people and snatching weapons. How shameless! Chapter 1329. Without the formation blocking his way, Jun Changxiao was like a fish returning to the sea, swimming freely in the endless sky. Lin Lang did not chase after him, because he was already injured. Especially when his weapon was stolen, it was a serious second blow. Damn it. Looking at the sword glow that was gradually disappearing from his sight, he roared helplessly in his heart. "I will definitely go to the sect of all times and take back the 6 treasure swords." Wait a minute. He had never heard of the sect of all times before. No matter. Since he left the name of the sect, it must exist. As long as the Sword Mystic sect used their connections and network, they would definitely be able to find it easily. The idea was good. But for now, unless he went to the lower realm, it would be extremely difficult to find it. Jun Changxiao, who was traveling through the vast sky, sneered and thought to himself, "If I wasn't in a hurry, how could you guys who went too far just lose your flying swords and weapons?" The Sword Mystic sect. "I'll remember it. I'll visit when I'm free." The system promptly complained. "The main thing is that you're worried that the higher-ups of the sect will come, and you won't be able to beat them, so you've decided to listen to them first." Scram! Whoosh! Jun Changxiao did not dare to stay too long near the Sword Mystic sect's territory. He traveled at full speed until he arrived at a primeval forest. He found a relatively clean cave, and hurriedly summoned the teleportation gate. It's here! It's here! A bold idea that had once occurred to him. The system remained silent, worried that it would be slapped in the face if it said too much. Whoosh whoosh. The teleportation gate of the dimensional battlefield appeared and gradually formed a whirlpool. Jun Changshao was delighted. It should work. Swoosh. Bang. As soon as he walked over, he was fiercely bounced back, as if he was blocked by an extremely thick wall. The system remained silent. Damn it. Jun Changshao rubbed his face and said, as expected, the upper realm and the lower realm cannot be connected. After a pause he said, it's not a big problem. There's still Cuihua and Juzi. With a thought, he summoned the two space-time worms of different sexes and ordered, eat the barrier that's blocking me from entering. Yes. The two little fellows opened their mouths and gnawed on it. Then, a cracking sound was heard, as if their teeth were about to be broken. Master. Juzi grimaced. The barrier is too hard. We can't bite it open. Plop. Jun Changshao slumped to the ground. Although 3 months was a bit of a rush, he was still relatively calm, because he could use the teleportation gate to go back. Now that he had tested it out, the result was that he had thought too much. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. The system finally stopped being silent and started to laugh unscrupulously. In fact, it had already guessed this outcome long ago. After all, the structure of the upper realm's space barrier was much stronger than that of the mortal world. If one could casually enter and exit the upper realm, the system of the two universes would have collapsed long ago. Because it was afraid of being slapped in the face, the system had been holding back. Sigh. It had been hard on it. How can you still laugh? Jun Changshao roared. If we can't complete the main mission, the two of us will have to report to the underworld together. The system said seriously, so it's better to use a cheat. Jun Changshao understood. The system had cancelled him in order to instigate him to refresh the system store. Facts have proven that although the host has successfully set up the great formation of seizing heaven and earth after 9 years of hard work, in the end, all he did was add some special effects. In the end, he only sent himself up. The system said, can we not talk about this anymore? Jun Changshao roared. Everyone had a past that they could not bear to look back on. Yi Xingchen had especially many. For example, in his past life, he was plotted against by his own woman. After his rebirth, he drank too much and went to the livestock pen, or the spirit beast hall. Go Sheng was no exception. His past that he could not bear to look back on was that ever since he transmigrated, he had truly relied on his own efforts for 9 years. In the end, he was all alone in the upper realm. The sect lacked Jun Changshao, which was equivalent to lacking a soul. The entire book lacked a group of cute higher-ups and disciples, which was equivalent to lacking a soul. A patriarch made of iron, a disciple made of water? No, this was not what Jun Changshao wanted. What he wanted, whether it was in the mortal world or the upper realm, was to finally stand at the peak and watch the sunrise. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the rest would be his companions. My babies, Jun Changshao shouted. I miss you all. Come on, it's only been a day. It's not like we've been separated for 3 to 5 years. Don't force yourself to turn a comedy into a hot-blooded one. The system urged. Hurry up and open the high-level store to refresh. Only by using cheats can the host's value be reflected. After all, we're not the main character who relies on hard work to make a living. Yes, Jun Changshao nodded and said, I'm the main character with good looks. I need to rely on my looks to make a living. Ascending with the entire sect within 3 months was definitely an impossible task. Therefore, under the instigation of a qualified salesman, Jun Changshao opened the system panel in the end. However, the panel that appeared changed. It used to be antique, but now it revealed a strong sense of futuristic technology. There was even a light pollution effect around it. What's going on? Jun Changshao was surprised. The system said, the moment the host stepped into the upper realm, it meant that the conditions were met. Therefore, the current system is the true version 2.0. It suddenly became fashionable. Are the functions also strengthened? Jun Changshao's eyes were burning. That's not the case. It's just a simple change of interface. Yes. Can you come out and let me give you a good beating? The host is not my match. Jun Changshao clicked on the high-level store. Although the background of the items had changed, the items inside were still refreshed. Pa. As usual, he prayed before the refresh. Come on. After praying to various deities, Jun Changshao fiercely pulled down the store. Then he saw the items in front of him shake slightly. Then, they were replaced by colorful lights until they weakened and revealed brand new items. This complete upper realm system even changed the refresh effect. It gave people a feeling of suddenly having funds and suddenly being superior. Jun Changshao did not care about the fancy effects. He only cared if there were items that were useful to him. For example, there were teleportation portals or portals that could connect the upper and lower realms and ignore the restrictions of heaven and earth. Unfortunately, there were none. However, there was an item called Moonlight Treasure Box. Could it be? Jun Changshao hurriedly clicked on the introduction. The content that appeared was item Moonlight Treasure Box Introduction, a treasure that uses moonlight to achieve space travel. Effect: after the activation requirements are met, it can accurately teleport according to the location provided by the user. Advantage: you can go on a trip across the various universes at any time you want. Disadvantage: one-time use unique product. Price: 100,000 contribution points. Level none. After reading the introduction, Jun Changshao squatted on the ground. He covered his face with one hand. His body trembled slightly. He did not know if he was laughing or crying. There was laughter and crying. He was laughing because when he was at his most desperate and helpless, just one refresh of the store immediately sent him warmth. They were crying because they could finally go back to the Falling Star continent and see their disciples again, whom they had not seen for a day. What was he waiting for? He would definitely buy it. Not to mention that this Moonlight Treasure Box was a one-time use item. He would not hesitate even if he spent all his contribution points. Ding! The host has spent 100,000 contribution points and obtained Moonlight Treasure Box X1. It has been transferred to the Space Ring. Ding! Sect contribution points 100001. Schwa. Jun Changshao took out the treasure engraved with the words Moonlight Treasure Box and hurriedly walked out. Coincidentally, it was already night outside. The moonlight shone on the earth. Wait a minute. When he was about to use it, the system stopped him. Host, you must think carefully. What's there to think about? Jun Changshao said. Directly return to the Falling Star continent. For now you can go back, but... The system said seriously. Host, do you have a way to bring the sect disciples to the upper realm? Jun Changshao fell silent. It turned out that the Great Creation Array that he had worked hard on for 9 years was suitable for single-person teleportation. As for large-scale smuggling, it was a complete joke. Since there's no way to bring them up, the system said, Host, what's the point of returning to the Falling Star continent? Or do you want to drag your family and disciples to die with you when the mission fails? Jun Changshao said, What do you mean? Find a way to bring the disciples to the upper realm and use this one-time, unique Moonlight Treasure Box, the system said. By one-time use, it was gone after one use. By uniqueness, it could not be bought again. It was very precious. Yes, Jun Changshao was enlightened. He said, Think of a way here. In the lower realm, the array was useless. If one wanted to ascend, they could only rely on the store and luck. It was different in the upper realm. After all, this was a stronger world. Maybe. I've got it. Jun Changshao slapped his forehead and said, I can go find the Taishian Elder. Since he can create an ascension array for a single person, maybe he can create an ascension array for a team. That's right. The system did not let Gosheng continue to refresh. Firstly, there were not many contribution points left. Secondly, luck was too important. Thirdly, it was more reliable to find a way in the upper realm than in the lower realm. If anyone says I'm a salesman again, I'll get angry with them. Wait, Jun Changshao thought. Where did the Taishian Elder say it was? Fengqi Celestial Mountain. Let's go find that guy. Although it was late at night, and he was slightly tired from fighting 2 battles in the day, Gosheng still chose to set off. After all, time was limited. On a distant mountain peak surrounded by clouds, the Taishian Elder was observing the stars at night. He frowned and said. The dark stars suddenly shone brightly. This is an ominous sign. Chapter 1330. Imperial Sword Mystic Faction Main Hall. A few sage-like elders sat in the lower seats, their brows filled with anger. The boundary was protected by the array formation, but someone actually sneaked in, injured 20 disciples and the chief disciple, and stole their flying swords and weapons. Who the hell could stand this? Lin Lang said. An elder said with a cold gaze. That guy reported his sect before he left. It's called the Sect of All Times. Sect of All Times? The gray-haired elder next to him scoffed. What an arrogant name. I've never heard of such a sect in the upper realm. There's not even a word mystic. It's enough to show that it's an unranked sect. Since that's the case, he shouldn't have any background or connections. Send people to investigate as soon as possible, capture him, and bring him back to the sect. I'm just afraid. An old man who seemed to be smarter said. Just randomly report a sect, or deliberately frame them. There's such a possibility. The third elder, who was more authoritative, said in a low voice. So let's not care about the Sect of All Times now, but find that guy first. I've already sent the Heaven's Eye Hall Master to investigate the scene of the battle. I believe that in a few days, we'll be able to lock onto his specific location, the fourth elder said solemnly. As a ranked sect that majored in sword Dao, they had quite a status among those of the same level. They had never been bullied like this, even to the point of bullying at their doorstep. So even if they couldn't do anything, they had to fight for their dignity and investigate to the end. A few days later, a burly middle-aged man with sharp eyes walked into the main hall and said, Reporting to the elders, I've locked onto that guy's aura. Good. The third elder immediately ordered. Send people to chase after him immediately. Even the chief disciple, a middle void-piercing realm cultivator, was beaten into seclusion to recuperate. So the Imperial Sword Mystic faction dared not underestimate the enemy. So they sent an upper void-piercing realm cultivator and 2 middle void-piercing realm cultivators. Even the flying swords they rode were top-grade. 3 elders. The hall master in charge of tracking the aura stopped at the cave abode Jun Changshao had stayed in before and said solemnly, He came here. Where did he go now? He went to the east. Let's go. Xiao. Xiao. Whoosh. 4 flying swords tore through the heavens and headed east. Soon after, they entered a lush mountain forest. They found traces of battle on the ground, as well as blood all over the ground. It's the blood of a sacred beast, the hall master of the Heavenly Eye Hall said with certainty. It must be that guy. Strange. One of the elders was rather puzzled. Judging from the blood at the scene, the holy beast should be dead without a doubt. Why can't we even see a single beast hair? Don't tell me that the kid took it all away. The saint beasts in this forest are at most 2nd or 3rd rank. Even if we sell them at the market, they won't be worth much. Is there something wrong with that brat's head? Achoo! Jun Changshao, who was thousands of miles away, sneezed. He continued to skillfully use the green dragon crescent blade to skin the sacred beast he had just killed. He grinned and said, As expected of the upper realm, I can casually encounter sacred beasts that are comparable to martial emperors. The system was on the verge of breaking down. Can't we hurry up? Time was tight, but this guy was so engrossed in hunting that he couldn't extricate himself. Sure. Jun Changshao took out his flying sword and flew east. Because he didn't know where he was, and where the Fengqi Immortal Mountain was. What he had to do now was to find a town as soon as possible, and ask someone who was familiar with the upper realm for directions. However, the upper realm was really big. Gosheng rushed for another 3 days, flying over countless mountains and ridges, before he finally saw a place that looked like a city in the distance. Stillwater Town? Stopping at the city gate and seeing the words engraved on it, Jun Changshao broke down. This city that is several times larger than Qingyang City is just a town? Stillwater Town was a very ordinary small town in the upper realm. The resident population was only 5 million, but there were all kinds of industries inside. When Jun Changshao walked in and saw that the strength of the street vendors wasn't particularly high, he heaved a sigh of relief. There are still ordinary people in the upper realm, the system said. Not all of them have the lower void-piercing realm. Jun Changshao spread his legs and pointed at the bearers and waiters who walked past him. He roared, "Big brother, they are all Emperor stage half-saints. How can they be considered ordinary people?" "It's normal," the system said. "With the rich heaven and earth attributes of the upper realm, even if you bring a dog up, just by breathing in and out every day, you can break through to the dog emperor realm." "I don't believe it, little brother." A voice came from beside his ear. Jun Changshao turned around and found that there was a huge heavy rock in front of him out of thin air. In his field of vision, he could barely see a 3 or 4-year-old child holding it up with one hand and smiling brightly at him. "Please make way." Jun Changshao's expression stiffened as he moved aside. Ta! Ta! The little guy walked forward step by step and walked to the corner of the courtyard. With a light lift of his finger, the heavy rock fell with a plop sound. Then he clapped his hands and said, "Mother, I've brought back the heavy rock. Can we eat now?" "Stinking brat." A woman who looked quite ordinary walked out of the courtyard and reprimanded with her hands on her hips. "It's a round trip of 500 miles. Why are you 15 minutes slower than yesterday?" The child scratched his head and said weakly, "I went to catch a rabbit halfway. Dinner is halved." Don't, my good mother." Jun Changshao, who had been listening to the conversation between the mother and son, had a completely stiff expression on his face. "Big brother, a 2 or 3-year-old child should act like a 2 or 3-year-old child. For example, he could use his urine to play with mud, lifting a heavy rock and running 500 miles back and forth. These kinds of physical work should be left to adults." Boom! Boom! At this moment, the sound of fighting came from behind. Jun Changshao hurriedly turned around and saw that 2 porters were having a conflict. The 2 of them started arguing at first, then they directly attacked. All kinds of spiritual energy burst and martial arts were displayed. They could be called masters. "Hey! Ha!" A few children walked past him. They were jogging. From their tense little faces, it could be seen that their strength was definitely at least at Wuzong. In this town where everyone was martial arts and had extraordinary strength, Jun Changshao stood alone on the street, as if he did not fit in with the whole world. After a long time, he calmed down the waves in his heart and turned stiffly to look at the camera. First, he laughed dryly to express his emotions. Then he hummed dully, "I'm willing to become the angel you love in the fairy tale. I'll open my arms and become wings to protect you." This is not a fairy tale. The system was speechless. This is a real upper realm, a plane that is crueler than the lower realm. At the grocery store, Jun Changshao walked in. He wanted to sell all the animal skins and bones he had obtained on his way here. However, just as he walked to the counter and was about to ask about the story, a martial artist in a tight suit came over first. He put his hand on the table and scolded, "I've been in the mountains for a month and all I've encountered are worthless holy beasts. Oldly, you decide on the price." "Don't," Shopkeeper Lee said. "This thing doesn't sell well. Even if I buy it, it'll just rot at home. You'd better go next door and ask." "I knew it." The martial artist sighed and left helplessly. Manager Lee was already very familiar with this person. He only said take care, and then turned around to look. Wait, where did the living person who was standing here just now disappear? You cried and told me that fairy tales were all lies. In the alley, there was an out-of-tune and sorrowful singing, which shocked the passers-by so much that their blood was boiling, and some even fell to the ground and twitched. Chapter 1331. It was the first time Jun Changshao entered a town in the upper realm, and saw that everyone was a martial artist. Even a 3 to 5-year-old kid was very arrogant. The saddest thing was that he had hunted a lot of prey along the way, planning to use them to make a small fortune. But in the end, they didn't care at all. Fortunately, Go Sheng was a mid-level void-piercing realm cultivator. In the town, he could be considered a top expert. Otherwise, he would probably be squatting in a corner. But this was just a small town. If he went to a bigger city, wouldn't there be many experts? Phew. Jun Changshao took a deep breath and said, "The more powerful this place is, the more it fills me with fighting spirit." After adjusting his mentality, he began to ask passers-by on the street about how to get to Fengqi Celestial Mountain. Brother. A middle-aged man who set up a stall waved at him and said with a smile, I have the most complete map of the upper realm here. It's really an essential thing for a monk to travel. Jun Changxiao was interested and said, How much is it? 1 magnetite. I don't have magnetite. Can I replace it with St. Beast's cores? The upper realm's martial resources for cultivation were magnetite. Usually, it could also be used for currency transactions. The energy contained in it was much stronger than the 9th-grade spirit stones of the mortal planes. That's fine too, the vendor said. But you need 10 St. Beast cores. Jun Changxiao took out almost 90% of the martial emperor cores he had obtained along the way, and exchanged them for a very ordinary map of the upper realm. Although it was quite sad, Gosheng finally understood that he was in the west of the plain, and Fengqi Celestial Mountain was in the east. Brother, Jun Changxiao asked, how far is Fengqi Celestial Mountain from here? Not far. The vendor said, about a few hundred mountains and forests will be there. In the mortal plains, people gave directions over a few mountains and forests. Here it was in the hundreds, and it wasn't far. Jun Changxiao didn't waste time. After memorizing the location, he left Stillwater Town and stepped on the road to Fengqi Celestial Mountain. Here came the problem. Why didn't he use the ancient warship? After using it he could still fly, but the fuel consumption was frightening. Even after filling it with energy, he could only fly 100 meters before running out of fuel. Under the new plane system, there was no longer a supply of spirit stones used for energy. It was normal for the fuel tank to run out in an instant when one stepped on the gas pedal. As there was no energy source from the upper realm, Jun Changxiao could only travel on his flying sword. Although this thing was not very fast, it was at least environmentally friendly and energy efficient. Gosheng rejoiced that he had been teleported to the territory of the mysterious sword sect. At the very least, he had found a means of transportation. If he had been sent to a remote corner, it would have been impossible for him to walk to the Phoenix Perch Immortal Mountain. A few days later, Jun Changxiao walked to a mountain range marked on the map. According to the comparison of the speed and distance, it would take about a month to reach the destination. It's a bit slow. Time was too tight, and he was very anxious. Ding! Side quest activated. Here it comes. The first mission after ascending to the upper realm. He opened the interface and clicked on the new side mission. The content was defeat number 04 of the Imperial Sword Sect's experts, who came to kill the host. Jun Changxiao immediately became alert and said, The Imperial Sword Mysterious Sect is actually hunting me down. The system was speechless. The spoilers are too crazy. Snatching their flying sword and weapon, it would be strange if I wasn't hunted down. Jun Changxiao said seriously, From the looks of the mission, they should be able to find me. Xiao. Xiao. Several sword lights flew over quickly and slowly stopped above the mountain forest. The Heavenly Eye Hall Master landed on the ground and closed his eyes to sense. He said in surprise, Elders, that guy's aura suddenly stopped here. Stopped. The leader of the Upper Void Piercing Realm experts frowned. It's very likely that he used some kind of aura-concealing ability. The Heavenly Eye Hall Master deduced. Can we still find him? From the remnant aura, that guy should have just arrived. We can search nearby. Maybe he didn't go too far. Search. Just as they were about to take action, they suddenly noticed a young man, lying on top of a huge rock in the distance within their field of vision. The distance between the two sides was no more than 100 feet, but the experts of the mysterious sword sect did not feel the slightest bit of aura leaking out from that guy's body. Seventh Elder, the Heavenly Eye Hall Master said in a deep voice. Judging from his clothes and appearance, he must be the culprit who severely injured the disciple. That's right. Jun Changxiao got up and grinned. It's me. After the side quest appeared, he used the hidden cultivation technique to the extreme, and then hid in the dark until he was sure that the 4 people chasing him were only 1 upper-level void-shattering tier, and 2 middle-level void-shattering tier. Only then did he walk out openly. Xiao. Xiao. 3 experts came over on their swords and looked at Jun Changxiao with cold eyes. However, they were quite surprised. This boy did not reveal any aura around him, so it seemed that he should be proficient in some kind of concealment martial art or ability. Boy, the seventh elder said indifferently, what's your background? According to the information provided by Lin Lang, he knew that the other party was definitely not from the Sharp Blade sect, and could easily break the formation, severely injure the chief disciple, and now perfectly conceal his cultivation. He should not be simple. Don't try to find out my identity, because it will scare you to death, Jun Changshao said indifferently. Is that so? The seventh elder sneered. He asked out of caution, but in fact he was already sure that even if the other party had a status, it would not be high. After all, the act of snatching a flying sword, as long as one had a reputation in the upper realm, would not have the face to do it. Indeed, in terms of level, the flying sword of the Sharp Blade sect was barely a basic flying tool. Those with real status would not even bother to snatch it, and even if they did, they would snatch the entire sect. Listen carefully, Jun Changshao said proudly. I'm from Fengqi Celestial Mountain. These days he had been thinking, since he came up, he must find someone to rely on. So he temporarily chose the old man from Taishan. After all, he just happened to be looking for him. More importantly, this legend from the falling star continent lived in the name of Celestial. So according to the sect level, he must be strong. Moreover, the old man from Taishan once said that he had ascended to the upper realm for a long time, and had made a name for himself, so he could protect him. Fengqi Celestial Mountain? The seventh elder frowned. What's your relationship with the Taishan cultivator? This Taishan cultivator must be referring to the old man from Taishan. So Jun Changshao held his head high and said, he's my teacher. Good. The seventh elder said angrily. So you're the disciple of the Taishan cultivator. I'll capture you today, and go to Fengqi Celestial Mountain to seek justice from that guy. Jie. Jun Changshao was dumbfounded. That guy. This description was not respectful at all. Could it be that the old man from Taishan was not doing well in the upper realm? That's not right. Fengqi Celestial Mountain was a celestial mountain. Those who could cultivate here were not as strong as Jinren Tonggu, but they should be stronger than a Xian sect. Are you stupid? The system roared. All the mountains marked on the map start with the word celestial, which means that the so-called celestial mountain is not related to the four sects. Is that so? Jun Changshao took out the map and found that all the mountains were marked with the word celestial. So he broke down. I thought he was strong. Forget it, forget it. Since the old man from Taishan was unreliable, he could only rely on himself. Chua. Jun Changshao put on the great sage set and took out the sky tyrant spear. He glanced at the three flying swords that seemed to be of an extremely high level. His eyes flashed with coldness as he said, you have to pay the price for humiliating my master. Not good. The old man from Taishan opened his eyes from the astrolabe and said seriously, the ominous signs are getting stronger. Chapter 1332. The Taishan loose cultivator was quite famous in the upper realm. It was said that he liked to study Chimen Duanjia and the like, and because he usually cultivated on his own mountain, he rarely had any entanglements with the secular world and sects, so his deeds were rarely known. The seventh elder had heard of this person, and knew that he occupied a mountain to cultivate. Perhaps he was quite strong, but he did not take him seriously. The reason was simple, he was from the Sword Mystic sect. In this kind of plane where sects were the mainstream, loose cultivators could not be compared to them. Moreover, they were from a Sword Dao sect that had reached the Xian level. It was undeniable that Xian sects were the lowest of the four levels. But if one knew that there were many forces in the upper realm that had not reached the Xian level, they would understand how awesome it was to have Xian as the prefix. Unless there was a deep hatred between them, lone loose cultivators would not easily provoke sects, because offending one was equivalent to offending several sections. After all, who did not have allies? The Black Rakshasa had also told Jun Changshao that in the upper realm, personal strength was secondary, and connections and relationships were the most important. But now, the Taishan old man, who had nothing to do with the Sword Mystic sect, had misunderstood them at this moment, and the reason was Jun Changshao, the disciple with quotation marks. As the readers complained, the Taishan celestial mountain was sitting, but Go Sheng was the one to blame. It could not be helped. Who asked him to be a little pretentious, and say that when Jun Changshao came to the upper realm to look for him, his words revealed the meaning of "I'll protect you." Today, not only did Go Sheng come, but he also brought trouble with him. He just did not know if the Taishan old man could handle such a big scene. Pooh! Pooh! In the wilderness, the two middle-level void-piercing realm powerhouses of the Sword Mystic Sect held their chests and retreated rapidly, their eyes filled with horror. As outer sect elders, these two brothers were much stronger than Lin Lang, but in the end, they were beaten back and injured by Jun Changshao in less than 10 moves. Bang bang bang. In the battle area, the seventh elder's cultivation was fully unleashed. Sword chi filled the sky, like missiles bombarding the ground, rolling up dust that covered the sky and the sun. Swish! Jun Changshao rushed out with the sky hegemon spear in hand, the spearhead gathering violent energy and thrusting forward. Ding! The seventh elder held his sword in front of him. Not only did he block the violent power, but he also took 2 steps back. He said indifferently, "I didn't expect that the Taishan cultivators could teach such a capable disciple." Hoo-hoo! Jun Changshao turned his right hand, forming a sweeping motion. Swoosh! Shwa! Whoosh! The seventh elder used a mysterious footwork to dodge the attack. Then he formed a sword seal, and gathered a dense number of sword shadows to attack. Ding ding ding! As the weapons collided, sparks flew everywhere. Fuck! Jun Changshao fought as he retreated, his heart crumbling as he thought. This guy is only at the upper-level void-piercing tier. Why do I feel like he's much stronger than the Fortress Master? The system said, the opponents that the host has encountered recently, regardless of lower level or middle level, are all far stronger than those in the mortal plane. It's not because of the support of sword arts, but because of the cultivation environment. In other words, the void-piercing tier elites in the upper realm are stronger than those in the lower realm? Jun Changshao asked. The system said, at least 30 to 40% stronger. Jun Changshao didn't have time to think, because the seventh elder's attack methods were very rich. All kinds of sword chi and sword moves were displayed, not giving him a chance to breathe at all. The system said, if the host doesn't use his trump card, it'll be difficult to defeat this upper-level void-piercing tier. He didn't reverse the situation, because Jun Changshao was gradually losing strength in the process of fighting with the seventh elder. Damn it! It was his first time in the upper realm, and he had to use his trump card against an upper-level void-piercing tier. In the future, he would be walking on thin ice in the pugilistic world. Ding ding ding! The seventh elder's attacks sped up again. Sword chi came from all directions, hitting Jun Changshao until he was in a difficult situation. Finally he shouted angrily, "Great Saint, help me!" Hoo-hoo! The golden chain armor flashed with golden light, and then the Great Saint, who dared to fight against the heavenly court, appeared, his blood-red cape fluttering in the wind. And the seventh elder frowned. This hairy guy who suddenly appeared had a strong aura, making him feel uneasy. Shwa! At this moment, the Great Saint opened his fiery eyes and said impatiently, "Kid, do you want me to deal with trash again?" After not appearing for almost 10 years, the Monkey King was in a very good state. Every hair seemed to emit powerful energy. "Great Saint," Jun Changshao said, "I have something to do. I'll leave this guy to you." Sigh. The Great Saint sighed and said, "How can my set be worn by someone like you? Monkey King, I've wronged you." After all, he was summoned by Jun Changshao. According to the settings, the Great Saint had to listen to orders, so he used another cool method to summon the Rui Jingu Bang, and then seemingly casually smashed it towards the seventh elder. Boom! The ground suddenly shook violently, and the birds and beasts in the forest far away flew away. When everything calmed down, the seventh elder's entire body sunk into the ground, and he had completely fainted. Seventh elder. The other 2 Imperial Sword Sect elites were dumbfounded. The rod looked weak, but why did it instantly kill their own elder? Ding! Side mission completed. Obtained 100,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 300001. After the 7th Elder was defeated, the first mission in the upper realm was successfully completed, but there was no reward. Jun Changshao didn't care, because he was more interested in the spatial ring and the few flying swords scattered in the distance. When he needed a flying tool the most, the Imperial Sword Sect people immediately sent him warmth. This was really a good person. Whoosh! After keeping the spatial ring, Jun Changshao stepped on the top-grade flying sword and left. Needless to say, the speed was much faster than before. He estimated that he would reach Fengqi Celestial Mountain in about 10 days. Damn it. The two injured mid-level void-piercing realm martial artists of the Imperial Sword Sect could only helplessly and angrily watch Go Sheng leave. Of course, they had already used a special secret method to inform the sect of the news. The most important news was that the murderer was a disciple of the Taishan independent cultivator. Pa! In the main hall of the Imperial Sword Sect, the 3rd Elder who received the news slammed the table and said angrily, "Gather everyone and follow me to Fengqi Celestial Mountain. We'll find the Taishan independent cultivator and ask for an explanation. I'm rich." Jun Changshao, who was flying in the sky, retracted his spiritual thoughts from the spatial ring and said ecstatically, "I'm rich." He took the spatial ring of the 7th Elder of the Imperial Sword Sect. Inside, there were Xian stones that were similar in size to spirit stones, but extremely powerful. There were a total of 10,000 of them. This thing should be able to be used as the energy source of the ancient worship, right? Jun Changshao was about to do an experiment when he suddenly came to a sudden stop. A few hundred feet ahead, there were dozens of people in martial attire blocking his way. They had the words Ling Dao carved on their chests and large swords engraved with strange patterns on their backs. The most interesting thing was that they were stepping on swords. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched and said, "Flying on swords is fine. Go." The leader shouted coldly. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The martial artists blocking the way did not say much. They directly took out their large swords and charged over. The anger between their brows was like the hatred of killing their father and stealing their wife. Jun Changshao could tell from the words and weapons on their chests that they were definitely from the Ling Dao sect. So he hurriedly explained, "Everyone, I'm not from the Imperial Sword sect. I'm a disciple of the Taishan Elder. Cut the crap. Eat my sword." Whoosh whoosh. The incomparably sharp sword energy slashed down from the sky, forcing Jun Changshao to take out the sky-dominating spear to defend himself. Boom, 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 ding, ding, ding. A fierce battle unfolded in midair. After the dust and various kinds of energy gradually dissipated, Jun Changshao was rather depressed as he controlled the top-grade flying sword to leave. As for the attacking Ling Dao sect disciples, they were lying on the ground with bruises all over their faces. Their spatial rings had also been plundered by Go Sheng. "Senior brother, why is this guy using a spear? He's definitely not from the Imperial Sword sect." The Taishan Elder. "Is he the Taishan loose cultivator, who studies Chiman Duanjia all year round in Fengqi Celestial Mountain? He stole our spatial rings. No, we can't let him escape. Hurry up and inform the sect." Chapter 1333. The height of a mountain did not matter, as long as there was an immortal. In the upper realm, any mountain with abundant heaven and earth attributes would have the word immortal in its name. For example, Fengqi Mountain, where the Taishan Elder stayed all year round and rarely went out, was definitely 5A in terms of geographical location and natural environment. However, this legend from the falling star continent was a little irritable recently, because whether it was observing the stars at night or deducing divination, he always had a premonition that something big was going to happen. In the past few days, the ominous omen had become more and more intense, making him a little restless. What's going on? The Taishan Elder could not figure it out, so he could only calculate again and again, and finally peeked into some heavenly secrets, knowing that the uneasiness was due to hatred. "That's not right," he said blankly. "Since I ascended to the upper realm, I have never interacted with the outside world, focusing on the research of formations. When have I ever made enemies? The Taishan elder wanted to continue calculating, but the heavenly secrets could not be revealed, so he could not accurately know who he had a grudge with. One thing was certain, and that was that the ominous omen was getting more and more intense, as if it would come at any time. This made him shake his head helplessly, saying, "It seems that the days of leisure are coming to an end." He sat on the mountain peak, and his turbid eyes suddenly became sharp, like a sword that had been sealed for a long time. And the moment it was unsheathed, it flashed with a sharp luster. The Taishan elder was not very well known in the upper realm, and it was only known that he liked to study the art of divination. But his true strength was still a mystery, because there were no battle records to check. To describe it in modern terms, he was a coder who stayed at home, thinking about all kinds of codes every day to study new formations. Boom! Boom! Thousands of miles away from the Phoenix Perch Immortal Mountain, Jun Changshao was fighting the people of the High-Blade Mystic Sect on his top-grade flying sword. He was on the verge of breaking down. "I'm really not from the High-Blade Mystic Sect." The system was speechless. "You fucking robbed so many spatial rings, and obtained a lot of martial arts resources. So what does it matter if you're from the High-Blade Sect or not? Damn you!" An upper-level void-piercing realm of the High-Blade Mysterious Sect shouted angrily. "Hand over our sect's resources." There was no way he was going to hand it over, because Jun Changshao never thought that he would be able to spit out the food that he had eaten. Therefore, he could only speed up after forcing the other party to retreat. However, Jun Changshao had underestimated the Xian sect. Because on the way to the Phoenix Perch Immortal Mountain, they were intercepted one after another by various sects and forces, wearing different uniforms. In the end, they were forced to use the hidden cultivation technique to sneak forward. To be able to gain a foothold in the upper realm, and obtain a Xian-level sect, they must have many friends and allies. When one party was in trouble, others would come to their aid. It was a basic operation. Did you not see? At this moment, in other regions, because of the conflict between the two sects, there were dozens of allies who came to help. The most tragic thing was that Jun Changshao was not a kind person either. If someone tried to stop him, he would definitely resist. He might even beat someone up and lick their spatial ring. As a result, the conflict gradually worsened, and eventually led to more sects joining in. Swish, swish. On the way to the Phoenix Perch Immortal Mountain, major sects could be seen driving flying treasures to search for that damn thief. Conservatively speaking, in these few days, because of Jun Changshao, there were 6 Xian-level sects and 20 to 30 sects with no level. What if they couldn't find him? It didn't matter. Even if he ran away, there was still the Phoenix Perch Immortal Mountain. Let the Taishan loose cultivators pay for all their losses. If the Taishan old man who sat at home all year round knew that he did nothing, but took the blame for so many things, he would definitely spit out blood. Swish! In the sky, a sword light flew over. After passing through the primitive forest in the distance, the Phoenix Perch Immortal Mountain is there. Jun Changshao took back the map, his eyes flashing with excitement. In his opinion, as long as he found the Taishan old man, the possibility of bringing his disciples to the upper realm would increase from 0 to, no matter how much, there was still hope. Swish! Swish! However, as soon as he reached the primitive forest, several lights suddenly rushed up from below and surrounded Gosheng. When the lights dissipated, 4 elders of the sword-wielding sect appeared proudly. "Kid," the third elder in the lead said angrily, "hand over the flying sword." "Here." Jun Changshao took out a top-grade flying sword, then poured all his strength into his right hand and threw it away. Swish! An elder rushed over. Swish! Taking this opportunity, Jun Changshao drove the flying sword and escaped under the bombardment of the 3 powerhouses. Then, he stuck out his tongue and fled toward the Phoenix Perch Immortal Mountain. Creak! The door of a building that looked like a Taoist temple was gently pushed open. The Taishan old man who had been suffering from insomnia recently came out and looked at the originally clear sky gradually covered by dark clouds. He said bitterly, "I'm afraid this is a bad omen." "Senior Taishan." Suddenly a voice came from afar. "Come and save me." Hmm. Hearing this, the Taishan old man was stunned. Then he thought of something and said in surprise, "It's the voice of the young man who entered the Taishan cave before." Huff huff. A majestic spiritual sense emerged and spread toward the cry for help. In an instant, it captured a young man fleeing on a flying sword with 4 void-piercing realm powerhouses chasing after him. "That's not right," the Taishan old man said in disbelief. "It's only been 10 years. How did he ascend to the upper world?" Boom! Boom! In the distant sky, all kinds of sword energy blasted over. Although Jun Changshao dodged a lot, he was still hit on the back. Then he fled in an extremely sorry state. He raised the loudspeaker and shouted, "Master, come and save me!" Huff huff. Huff huff huff. More sword energy blasted over. Judging from the gathering energy, if Jun Changshao used the Great Sage set to resist, he would definitely be injured because of the consumption of a lot of defense power. "Damn it! I'll fight it out with you." Go Sheng's eyes were filled with determination. He was about to use the unstoppable blade when he suddenly felt a strong wave of air surging from the mountain in front of him. An old man in a white robe floated behind him and waved his hands lightly, sweeping away all kinds of sword energy. This, Jun Changshao was stunned. Suddenly appearing in a flash and floating in the air, without the support of a flying treasure. It all meant that the opponent was very strong. "Child," the Taishan old man turned his back to Go Sheng and said with a smile, "I didn't expect us to meet so soon." A familiar voice. Jun Changshao was overjoyed and said, "Say, Master." The Taishan old man frowned slightly and said, "I've been cultivating alone until now and have never taken a disciple." "You, Master," Jun Changshao hurriedly said, "I obtained profound martial arts in the Taishan cave and was able to ascend to the upper world. In terms of etiquette, you are my master, and I am your successor." Chapter 1334. When he saw the Taishan old man appear, Jun Changshao had a plan in his heart. "I'm definitely going to hug this person's thigh." Bah! The system spat out a mouthful of saliva. Previously, when Anyo took the initiative to present the Taishan Sutra, the host was quite disgusted. Now that he saw that the host was powerful, he immediately went into hugging mode. His behavior was simply shameless. The Taishan old man said, "You've cultivated the 2 martial arts I left behind. Logically speaking, you can indeed be considered a cross-generational disciple." Jun Changshao hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "Master, please accept this disciple's bow." Swish, swish. At this moment, the 4 elders of the Imperial Sword Sect caught up. The 3rd elder in the lead said coldly, "You're the Taishan cultivator?" "That's right." The Taishan old man smiled. The 3rd elder said, "It seems that you've broken through to the revolving core realm." "I was lucky to break through." From the Taishan old man's words, it was not difficult to tell that he was a very low-key person. Unfortunately, the guy behind him was an extremely flamboyant and troublemaker. He had only been in the upper realm for a month, and he had already caused a lot of trouble. "Humph." The 3rd elder snorted and said, "Your disciple trespassed into the territory of the Imperial Sword Sect, injured our disciples, and even stole the flying sword and weapon. As the master, you have to give an explanation, right?" In terms of strength, the 4 of them were definitely far inferior to the Taishan old man. However, as a sword sect, it was not as if there were no revolving core realm experts at home. Moreover, he was in the right this time. The Taishan old man was a little conflicted. He did not explain that this was not his disciple. Since this person came from the Falling Star continent, he had to help him. "Bullshit," Jun Changshao said loudly. "I accidentally entered your territory when I lost my way. Moreover, I took the initiative to apologize at that time. You still refused to let it go and insisted on hurting me. I had no choice but to defend myself." Indeed, logically speaking, both sides were in the right and wrong at the beginning. However, the problem now was not that they had entered the land without permission. Instead, it was that Go Sheng had snatched their flying swords and weapons from behind. "Taishan Sanren," the 3rd elder glared at Jun Changshao and said, "Make your stance clear." He had no interest in arguing with a disciple. The crux of the matter was his master's attitude. If you ask me, the Taishan elder was silent for a while and said, "You disciples of the Imperial Sword Sect can't beat him, because your skills are not as good as his. For elders of your sect came to hunt him down personally. This is a bit like bullying the weak." The last 4 words were spoken in an unyielding manner. If you ascend to the upper realm one day, you can come to Fengqi Celestial Mountain to look for me. This old man has ascended to the upper realm for a long time. I've barely made a name for myself. It shouldn't be a problem to protect someone like you who has just ascended. This was what the old man from Taishan had said in the Taishan Immortal's cave. Therefore, he was here today to fulfill his promise and protect Jun Changshao, who had just ascended to the upper realm. Of course, at this time, he finally understood why there had been bad omens recently. It turned out that it wasn't him, but the young man from the same plane. Master, Gou Sheng was deeply moved. Sure enough, he was right to come to him. This was a responsible senior. This was a legend of the Falling Star continent. The faces of the 4 elders of the Imperial Sword Sect turned ugly. An old man who spent all his time in Fengqi Celestial Mountain was actually so domineering. The 3rd elder said in a low voice, "Do you mean that regardless of right or wrong, you will protect your disciple? Isn't it normal for a master to protect his disciple?" The Taishan elder asked back. Of course, he wasn't proving that he was Gou Sheng's disciple. In terms of etiquette, it was natural for a master to protect his disciple when he was in trouble. But the Imperial Sword Sect had already recognized them as master and disciple. Sigh. Gou Sheng had thrown the blame away beautifully, and the Taishan elder had also accepted it beautifully. Good. The 3rd elder said coldly. Since you insist on protecting your disciple regardless of right or wrong, then don't blame us for being rude. Attack. That was impossible. After all, he was a rebirth core expert. What should they do? He could only use the method of calling to get more people. 4 of you, the Taishan elder said. I still have to cultivate. Forgive me for not seeing you off. Before he could finish, he frowned. Because in the sky outside Fengqi Celestial Mountain, there were at least 300 to 500 people flying over. Master, Jun Changshao said telepathically, these are all here to cause trouble for me. The Taishan elder was dumbfounded. From their clothes, he judged that they were from at least 20 or 30 sections. It seemed like a group of heroes were gathering at Fengqi Celestial Mountain. He broke down and said, "What did you do?" Humph. The experts of the High Blade sect were the first to rush over and said coldly, "Taishan cultivator, your disciple has stolen countless resources from our sect. If you don't give us an explanation today, we will not rest until we kill you." That's right. The martial artists of the other sects shouted in unison. In the beginning, they didn't have much conflict with Gou Sheng. However, their interspatial rings were stolen one after another. So it slowly developed into a situation where everyone wanted to kill him. Master, Jun Changshao said telepathically, I'll leave my safety to you. The Taishan elder almost spat out blood. Although he was an old shut-in, he could tell that this guy must have done something bad outside as his disciple. In the end, it's all my fault. Everyone. The Taishan elder pointed at Jun Changshao and said seriously, he's not my disciple. I have nothing to do with him. It wasn't difficult to fight the High Blade sect head-on. But there were so many of them. At least 5 or 6 of them. Who could withstand that? Jun Changshao was on the verge of breaking down. He said that he could protect himself if he came to him. But when he saw so many people, he immediately backed down. Master, Go Leftover clutched his chest and said in a heartbroken voice, You disappoint me too much. Don't call me master. The Taishan elder roared. I don't even have a disciple like you. Indeed, the 2 of them were not master and disciple. However, to outsiders, it sounded like the disciple had caused a lot of trouble, and the master had broken off their relationship on the spot. Humph. The 3rd elder sneered. Taishan cultivator, your disciple has made a mistake. As his master, you must take responsibility. It's useless even if you break off the relationship now. Based on the other party's stubbornness just now, he was sure that the 2 of them were master and disciple. That's right. Hurry up and tell your disciple to hand over the resources he stole. If he doesn't hand them over, we'll raise this phoenix perch immortal mountain to the ground." The martial artists of the various sects glared at him. They had their sects behind them, so they didn't fear a lone cultivator who had reached the rebirth core realm. The Taishan elder's current mood could be described as a dog. He understood. So this was what the ominous omen meant earlier. The so-called grudge wasn't just one person, but dozens of sections. The most infuriating thing was that he had never interacted with them in his life. It was all because that guy pretended to be his disciple. "Master," Jun Changshao leaned over and said solemnly, "Today we'll work together and—" Before he could finish, the Taishan elder had already slung his luggage over his shoulder and cupped his hands. "The mountains will not change, and the rivers will flow forever. We'll meet again in the martial world." Swish! He slipped away. Chapter 1335. Jun Changshao was dumbfounded, because the Taishan elder, who was supposed to protect him, had slipped away. The worst thing was that he had even packed his luggage. He was definitely prepared to run away at any time. That was right. After the Taishan elder realized that the ominous sign was getting stronger, he packed his luggage early and went on a trip. This was preparing for a rainy day. This was foresight. However, as soon as he slipped away, Jun Changshao was left behind, and he had to face several hundred high-level and middle-level void-piercing realm martial artists alone. "Kid," the Taishan elder's voice rang in his ear. "Ascending to the upper realm is equivalent to a new beginning. No matter what trouble you encounter in the future, you must first rely on yourself to resolve it." "Fuck you," Jun Changshao roared in his heart. "You said you would protect me." Cursing was cursing, but running was still necessary, so he immediately controlled the flying sword. However, he was already surrounded by the major sections. There was no way out. The Flying Sword Sect and the Soaring Blade Sect had a feud. As long as the two sides met, they would definitely fight without saying much. However, for the same goal today, they pretended not to see each other. "It's fine if Master runs away," the third elder said coldly. "It's fine as long as you're here." Kakik. Standing on the flying sword, Jun Changshao laughed strangely, and his eyes became more and more serious. He said, "You bunch of trash want to keep Jun here." It didn't matter if the Taishan elder ran away. He still had various trump cards such as, whoosh. He gently raised his hand, and a pocket-sized knife appeared out of thin air. This strongest trump card was not used when dealing with the mortal universe's biggest boss, the Fortress Master. Today, Jun Changshao planned to try it in the upper realm. Tisk. Seeing the model of a toy knife, the martial artists of the major sects all snorted. "Kid," the third elder said coldly, "stop pretending here. If you want to live, quickly hand over the things you stole." "Sorry." Jun Changshao pinched the handle of the knife with 2 fingers and said, "I don't have the things, but I have a life." Go Sheng's principle was that he would not hand over the things he got with his own ability even if he died. "Everyone," the third elder said in a deep voice, "let's go together and chop this guy to death. Then, all the resources will be distributed according to the losses." Okay. The martial artists of the major sects had no objections. They had been quite wary of old man Taishan, but now that he had abandoned his disciple and fled, there was nothing to worry about. Go. Hoo. In an instant, hundreds of void-piercing realm cultivators all unleashed their cultivation. Jun Changshao, who was surrounded, was expressionless, but he was praying in his heart. "I hope that the third form of the unstoppable blade is still useful in the upper realm. Otherwise, I can only use the power of the stone statues. To kill immortals, to kill immortals, to be to kill, to kill, to be killed, to kill immortals." The opening talisman was in his hand. However, just as the experts from the various sects were about to press down on him, and he was about to crush it, a violent wave of air suddenly surged out from behind him. Boom! The sound of a powerful explosion was heard, and the space began to distort. As for the dozens of martial artists who attacked, they were all sent flying. In his field of vision, a huge thing that seemed to be made of bamboo armor appeared out of thin air. A voice came from behind him. Kid, leave this to me. You hide quickly. The Taishan elder. He did not run away alone. FCK. Jun Changxiao's eyes widened as if they would pop out of their sockets at any time. What did he see? He saw that the huge thing was made of bamboo pieces like a robot. The Taishan elder sat in the cockpit covered by a barrier and put his hands on a small light array. Transformers? Dragon Fighters? Gundam? Iron Man? Don't be in a daze. The Taishan elder said in a deep voice, hide quickly. Otherwise, when my bamboo mountain number 1 moves, you will be in trouble too. Shua. Jun Changxiao hurriedly controlled the flying sword to land on a mountain peak in the distance and said in disbelief, high-tech. The system said, this thing has all kinds of arrays on it. Jun Changxiao also noticed, and his eyes suddenly became excited. The Taishan elder could play with arrays to such an extent. Maybe he had a way to make the sect rise. The martial artists of the various sects were also stunned at this moment. Not only did they not expect the Taishan elder to turn back, but they also did not expect that he would control a strange equipment that was at least 30 to 50 feet in size and looked like a fierce beast. Especially when the punch just now sent more than 10 void-piercing realm martial artists flying. It showed that the combat power was quite terrifying. The bamboo mountain number 1 was a type of combat armor that could both attack and defend, created by the Taishan elder, with all kinds of arrays inside. Even if Go Sheng was thrown in to control it, it could still explode with great power. Remember, don't provoke a technical geek, because the means he uses to bully you may not only be martial arts. Of course, this kind of high-tech mecha also had its flaws. Not only did it need arrays to support it, but it also needed a powerful energy source to drive it. Kid, the Taishan elder said telepathically, this is the first time this old man is using the bamboo mountain number 1 in an actual battle. You are fully responsible for all the energy consumption. No problem. Jun Changxiao said straightforwardly, this kind of ancient-style combat armor was really cool. He really wanted to see how powerful it was. The Taishan elder, who was inside the defensive barrier, looked at everyone present and said coldly, Phoenix Perch Mountain is this old man's place of cultivation. You all flew in without saying anything. Aren't you a bit too much? Whoosh. As he spoke, his spiritual thoughts had already communicated with the array. The tall and mighty bamboo mountain number 1 swung its right fist, and the explosive power instantly shook the space, causing ripples similar to water waves. Boom! The seemingly clumsy fist fiercely sent more than 10 void-piercing realm martial artists flying, and the violent energy shook the others to their core. Retreat, retreat, retreat. In an instant, hundreds of martial artists from various sects made the most correct choice, and that was to escape as quickly as possible. Taishan unaffiliated cultivators. As the third elder fled, he said angrily, our sword mystic sect will not let this go. Bang! Before he finished speaking, he directly crashed into the defensive barrier, and his entire face caved in. The martial artists from various sects were not spared, and collectively crashed into the defensive array that suddenly appeared. Only when they looked from afar did they realize that the entire Phoenix Perch Mountain was completely covered by the egg-shaped defensive barrier. Is this a place where you can come and go as you please? The Taishan elder flew over in the bamboo mountain number 1, and then raised his fists to launch a storm of attacks. Bang 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 fuck. Jun Changxiao was stunned and said, awesome. After 15 minutes, more than 300 martial artists from more than 30 sects fell to the ground with bruises and tattered clothes. Ka. The mecha made of piled bamboo hung in the air, and then made a pose with its hands crossed, and the 4 big black words Bamboo Mountain number 1 appeared on the screen. Chapter 1336. The Taishan old man didn't run away. He just went back to drive the Gundam. It had to be said that the Bamboo Mountain number 1 was very strong. It took care of the martial artists from various sects quickly and easily. Senior, this thing of yours is awesome. Jun Changxiao circled around the mecha with admiration. Finally, he couldn't help but ask, can I go in and try? Go away. The Taishan old man rolled his eyes and hurriedly took the Bamboo Mountain number 1 away, saying, This is a treasure I made with my heart and blood. It's more precious than a wife. No one is allowed to touch it. Jun Changxiao was speechless. No one would compare a mecha to a wife. Gosheng suppressed the thoughts in his heart, went to the unconscious third elder and the others, and took all the spatial rings. Seeing this, the Taishian old man suddenly understood why this kid offended so many sections. Brat, he scolded. I took care of them. How did all the things go into your pocket? This sentence directly caused the legendary image of the falling star continent to collapse on the spot. Senior, Jun Changxiao grinned and said, let's split it 50-50. No, the Taishian old man said. The bamboo mountain number 1 consumed so much energy. I have to take 90%, and you take 10%. Okay. Jun Changxiao threw all the spatial rings over and said, these are all seniors. I don't want any of them. Gosheng, who had always valued martial arts resources, actually took the initiative to give up all the gains. This was a bit abnormal. Let's go. The Taishian old man didn't count the resources and said, let's leave here quickly. Although they took care of more than 300 void-piercing realm cultivators, they still had Sects as their backing. They definitely wouldn't let it go, so the best choice was to change mountains. Sigh. The Taishian old man looked up to the sky and sighed. I wanted to live a low-key life, but my strength didn't allow it. The corner of Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched as he thought to himself, this old man is a little pretentious. The system said. From what he said in the Taishian cave, I can tell that he's someone who seeks to keep a low profile, but deep down, he likes to seek excitement. That makes sense. Jun Changxiao agreed wholeheartedly. Kid, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and go. The Taishian old man urged. Senior, Jun Changxiao didn't leave. Instead, he sat on a huge rock and said, I think the scenery here is pretty good. Why don't you stay here? At worst, we'll just deal with whatever comes our way. The Taishian elder glared at him and said, all Xian sects have revolving core experts. When they all come, I really won't be able to protect you. If it weren't for the fact that Jun Changxiao came from the falling star continent, he definitely wouldn't fight with the major sections. After all, he was just a wandering cultivator. Although his strength was decent, he couldn't be compared to the complicated relationships of the sections. Moreover, there was a saying in the upper realm, even if you met a dog outside, you shouldn't provoke it casually, because it might involve many forces behind it. Although the Taishian elder liked to seek excitement, he still had to study the art of divination. He couldn't go out and fight with others every day. Senior, Jun Changxiao said seriously. To tell you the truth, this junior has come here with a request. What is it? The Taishian elder's eyelids twitched subconsciously, bringing him so much trouble. He felt that this guy must be up to no good. As expected, after hearing Jun Changxiao's words, he was stunned for a moment and said in shock, are you crazy? This junior isn't crazy, Jun Changxiao said seriously. This junior wants to bring the entire sect to the upper realm. The Taishian elder's expression became interesting. Back then, when he thought of creating a formation to sneak into the upper realm, he felt that it was already very daring. He didn't expect this kid to be even more daring than him. He actually wanted to teleport an entire sect. How many people? 100,001. The Taishian elder almost fell to the ground. Did he think that the upper realm was his own backyard? That he could bring so many people up to play as he pleased? Senior, Jun Changxiao said seriously, since you can create a heaven-seizing fortune array for a single person, you can definitely create one for many people. So, he took out all the martial arts resources he had recently obtained and cupped his hands. Please help me. This is too much. The Taishian elder shook his head and said, this old man wants to help, but there's nothing I can do. Jun Changxiao's mood instantly fell. He thought that if he found the Taishian elder, he would be able to find a way to bring the sect to the upper realm. It was only when reality hit him hard that he understood that the so-called hope was nothing more than paving the way for greater disappointment later. Senior, sorry to disturb you. Jun Changxiao took away all the martial arts resources and left dejectedly. Little guy. The Taishian elder said, I have a way to let more people sneak into the upper realm, But the premise is that you can return to the lower realm. Jun Changxiao, who was already disheartened, suddenly had hope. He quickly turned around and took out all the martial arts resources again. He said eagerly, "What's the way? I see now. If others can help, they don't care about money. If they can't help, they can forget about taking a single cent. That's too realistic." The system complained. The Taishian elder said, "The formation I created is based on the energy of the 5 elements. However, due to the limitations of materials and attributes in the lower realm, it can only teleport one person. If there's a huge improvement in the energy of the 5 elements, it may be able to teleport more people." "Senior, what you mean is that as long as we find a stronger energy source of the 5 elements to drive the formation, we can achieve the upper realm." Jun Changxiao's eyes were burning. The Taishian elder shook his head and said, "I can't guarantee that you can achieve the upper realm, but if you can find a strong energy source of the 5 elements, there should be hope for you to promote more people from a single person." "The power of the 5 elements," Jun Changxiao murmured and said, "Senior, the heaven and earth attributes of the upper realm also contain the 5 elements. Does that mean that there's a stronger energy of the 5 elements?" "That's right," the Taishian elder said. "The upper realm is a higher level plane. Its area is vast, and the density of the attributes is extraordinary. Over the endless years, it has nurtured many treasures related to the 5 elements. For example, the red refining divine bead in the red refining fire region, and the water linglong in the nirvana water region, are the top representatives of the 5 elements." "Where exactly is it?" Jun Changxiao said. The system was speechless. "It's over. The host is going to go the traditional way of collecting treasures. It's estimated that in a short 1 or 2 months, at least a few hundred chapters will be spent. There's no great magical power in these places. Going in is death," the Taishian elder said. "But I just happen to have treasures that correspond to the 5 elements. Although it's not as good as the red refining divine bead and the water linglong, it's a few thousand times better than the mortal world." Jun Changxiao was overjoyed. The system roared, "My rhythm of being slapped in the face and reverse poison healing skills are not bad." Chapter 1337. Inside the cave, the Taishian elder waved his hand, and 5 heaven and earth treasures related to the 5 elements appeared on the table out of thin air. He said, "These 5 heaven and earth treasures, according to the upper realm's classification, should be at the true level." "So high?" Jun Changxiao was stunned. He had learned from the black and white devils that any heaven and earth treasure that could be classified, even the most inferior mysterious level, would be extremely precious. The Taishian elder said, "I rarely cultivate, and entered the revolving core realm in a daze. I spent most of my time researching Chimanduanjia and collecting strange things. After all, that's my only hobby." The corner of Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. As a major realm above the void-piercing realm, he actually used the word daze to describe it. This could be compared to Beta and Sabinin. "Senior," Jun Changxiao said weakly, "what's your current rank?" The so-called revolving core realm in the upper realm was actually a realm where one's Dantian's attributes and energy were converted into a new energy source. This was why it was called the revolving core realm. The revolving core realm had a total of 9 levels. Every rank represented a greater understanding of the heaven and earth attributes, and a great increase in strength. The first to third ranks were called the Qi-changing realm. At this level, martial artists could freely use the more profound heaven and earth attributes. The fourth to sixth ranks were called the spirit-changing realm. At this level, martial artists began to touch the heavenly axiom, and all kinds of special effects would be added to their attacks. The 7th to 9th ranks were called the soul-changing realm. At this level, one would merge the first 2 ranks and achieve true mastery. The energy source in one's body would begin to evolve to a higher level, and one would be considered a powerful expert. "Sigh," the Taishian elder said in shame. "I've ascended to the upper realm for so many years, but I've only just entered the 3rd rank." "Senior, to be able to reach the 3rd rank without focusing on martial arts, your talent in martial arts is already very strong. Jun Changshao said in admiration. He was not trying to flatter, because the black and white devils were born and raised in the upper realm. Moreover, they had only barely reached the 6th rank because they focused on martial arts. Back to the topic. The Taishan old man said, "You can take these heavenly materials and earthly treasures, but..." He rubbed his hands together and said, "Do you understand what I mean?" Jun Changshao took out the resources he had snatched and asked, "Are these enough?" The Taishan old man rolled his eyes and said, "It's not even enough for one medicinal herb." Jun Changshao said helplessly, "It's my first time in the upper realm. Firstly, I don't have any strength. Secondly, I don't have any property. I really don't have much money. It's all right." The Taishan old man said, "You can write an IOU." "Ha!" Jun Changshao was stunned. "Come." The Taishan old man placed the receipt on the table and smiled. "Sign and put your fingerprint on it." This bastard had prepared everything in advance. Jun Changshao lowered his head to take a look, and he saw the words written on it on the day of the full moon of the Mid-Autumn Festival. "I, Jun Changshao, owe the old man from Taishan 10 million celestial stones. I will definitely repay it within 10 years, or else I am willing to be struck by lightning." "Are you kidding me?" Jun Changshao broke down. "These 5 heavenly materials and earthly treasures are worth 10 million celestial stones? Just from the literal meaning, one could tell that celestial stones were definitely more precious and valuable than celestial stones." "Of course," the Taishan old man said. "If you don't believe me, you can ask around." "Where am I supposed to ask around?" "Okay." Jun Changshao picked up the pen and said, "I'll sign it." There were only a few dozen days left before the main mission, and he had to bring the sect to the upper realm. So not to mention 10 million, even if he owed 100 million, he had to take the risk. Whoosh! He wrote his name and put his fingerprint on the receipt, and the 5 heavenly materials and earthly treasures with incomparably pure aura were stored in the space ring. "Senior," Jun Changshao said seriously, "with a stronger energy source, can the sect really ascend?" The Taishan old man kept the receipt and said, "I can't guarantee success, but you've got the things you want. You must pay me back 10 million celestial stones within 10 years." Jun Changshao was speechless. The Taishan old man said meaningfully, "Child, there are many tricky things in this world that may not necessarily succeed. The only thing we can do is to dare to try." Back then he suddenly came up with a great idea, so he tried. Although he failed, he eventually created the creation array of heaven and earth. However, the old man didn't know that Jun Changshao couldn't afford any failure in this tricky matter, because it was related to his soul. "Understood. Farewell, senior." Jun Changshao left the stone room and Phoenix Perch Mountain. He had the moonlight cash to return to the lower realm, and he had 5 types of elemental energy that were thousands of times stronger than the mortal world. He could try to modify the array, but he wasn't confident at all. "Sigh," he sighed and said, "If I had more time, I could have gone to the place Senior Taishan mentioned to find a stronger elemental energy source." "Don't be discouraged," the system said. "Don't you still have the store? If you can't do it, you can use it all up." Jun Changshao pulled himself together and said resolutely, "That's the only way." On the mountain peak, the old man Taishan stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the fading figure, and said to himself, "Young man, don't let me down." Some people might think that the legendary figure of the falling star continent was kicked in the head by a donkey to exchange 5 treasures for an empty IOU. In fact, that wasn't the case. The old man Taishan could see that this person was no ordinary person. He had proven that by coming to the upper realm to find him in such a short time, so he was willing to offend all the major sects for him, and was willing to help him with treasures. Jun Changshao had obtained a stronger elemental energy source, and decided to return to the lower realm to try. This was a gamble. He was also betting that there would be a rising superstar in the upper realm in the near future. Although, he didn't sacrifice an arm to feed the sea beasts. The old man Taishan looked up at the stars in the sky that were originally hidden in the dark, but were now as bright as light. He said to himself, "The shining of the dark stars may not be ominous, or an extraordinary person will be born. He quietly carried his luggage and left Phoenix Perch Mountain without looking back. Apparently, he was really planning to run away this time. He had no choice. He wanted to keep a low profile and study the art of divination. Now that he had beaten up someone, he had to stay away from trouble. However, the formation here was not removed. If the major sects rushed in recklessly, they would be in for a treat. Late at night, moonlight shone on the earth. Jun Changshao sat cross-legged outside a cave, then took out the moonlight cache. He finally decided to return to the Falling Star continent with the 5 treasures given by the old man Taishian. Hesitation is not in the host's character. The system said, "Don't worry, try it boldly, I will always support you." Jun Chang smiled and said, "Can you give me some milk?" The system roared. Then on the day of the Mid-Autumn Festival, I hope that the host will not be able to return to the lower realm for a reunion, and that he will not be able to bring the entire sect to the upper realm. Taking advantage of the fragrant milk, Jun Changshao stood up and shouted to the sky with one hand, "Prajna Paramitha." Whoosh, the light flashed and went straight into the clouds. The old man Taishian, who had already left Phoenix Perch Mountain, stopped and looked back at the light that seemed to merge with heaven and earth. He exclaimed, "Could it be that I guessed right? An extraordinary person will be born? God knows how many years have passed in the upper realm." Jun Changshao, who had just arrived, disappeared in the light, leaving behind a sentence before he left. "I will be back." Here, I wish everyone a happy holiday, healthy health, and family reunion. Chapter 1338. It had been more than a month since Jun Changshao left the Starfall continent, but the news of his ascension had yet to die down. It was still the talk of the world. It could be said that everything about this person and what he had done would be recorded in the annals of history. He would become an eternal legend like the Taishian Elder. In the sect of all times, although the disciples were used to not having the patriarch leading the morning exercises, they still mourned in their hearts. Especially Rose of Flowers. She sat in the pavilion and held her face with her hand. She muttered to herself sadly, "Although my husband has only been gone for a month, it feels like decades have passed." After Jun Changshao ascended, she did not return to the planar battlefield. Firstly, the teleportation gate was gone. Secondly, she was also a member of the Sect of all times. She chose to stay and help out. Rose of Flowers did not hold any position, but because of her unclear relationship with Go Sheng, she was respected in the sect. Masteress, Li Qingyang came to see her. The 3rd expansion of Ironbone Town has been completed. Do you want to go and take a look? Jun Changshao had been gone for more than a month. More and more planes came for trade, and the city was beginning to feel crowded again. The main reason was that the pills sold by Tangji Pharmacy were too heaven-defying. So many powerful people came to line up in advance to buy them. Rose of Flowers had not been in the Starfall continent for long, but she already understood the basic situation. She gathered the upper echelons of the sect to discuss, and finally decided to expand the city again. She controlled a plane, so it was easy for her to manage a sect. Moreover, she had Yuan Gongzi and the others to help her. She even had some free time to miss Jun Changshao. "No need," Rose of Flowers said. Li Qingyang said, "Masteress, you don't have to worry too much. If the patriarch has a way to go up, he will definitely have a way to come down." As one of the earliest disciples of the sect, he knew Jun Changshao very well. "I hope so." When Jun Changshao ascended, the most depressed person was Yi Xingchen. This was because he was more eager to go to the upper realm than anyone else in the sect. But in the end, the former had left on his own. Boom, boom. Inside the extremely difficult life and death secret realm, Anyo gathered all the frustration in his heart into his fists as he crazily killed spirit beasts one after another. It was as if he had turned into a devil. Junior brother Xiao, Su Xiaoma, who had accompanied him, said in a low voice, "Junior brother Ye's temper has been a bit bad recently. Could it be that he misses the patriarch too much?" Xiao Ziji said, "No, he's angry that he didn't ascend to the upper realm." After learning about Yi Xingchen's past life, he could understand how Yi Xingchen felt. After all, He had been hurt by a woman before. Boom, the last spirit beast was dealt with, and the experience this time was declared over. However, Anya was not done venting, so he shouted, "Let's go and drink." Su Xiaoma and Li Fei's expressions became interesting. In the past, during festivals or parties, the two would often look for Yi Xingchen, who could not hold his liquor. But now they did not dare to do so, because they could not outdrink him. My stomach hurts. I'm going to the outhouse. I told Shui Yi today that we're going shopping in the town. Su Xiaoma and Li Fei each found an excuse to slip away. This made Xiao Ziji shake his head helplessly and said, "Junior brother, let's go. I'll accompany you to drink." A man who had been hurt by a woman would understand a man who had been hurt by a woman the most. Inside the cafeteria, Lu Wancher took off her apron and said, "You two should drink less." When she became a member of the Sect of all times, she was only 13 or 14 years old. Now almost 20 years had passed. That innocence and naivety had long faded away, and she had become a beautiful woman. The one who had changed the most was Yao Menjing. She was no longer the child who cried endlessly when Elder Lu died. Now she had already grown up. Because she mainly cultivated the demonic path, her temperament was different from others. As for Li Luoqiu and Ling Yuanxue, the few female members who were famous in the sect, as they grew older, not only did their looks not decline, they became more and more beautiful. "Come." Yi Xingchen raised the wine jar and said, "Continue drinking." Xiao Ziji did not say anything, because he was already lying under the table. Sigh. Yi Xingchen sighed, and an expression of how lonely it was to be invincible appeared on his face. In the days without Jun Changshao, although the Sect of all times was still full of vitality, it still lacked a sense of relaxation and happiness. Boom. On a certain night, a sudden clap of thunder sounded in the sky. A dazzling light like lightning seemed to appear from the depths of space, instantly rendering the entire plain white. Then, it fiercely struck in the direction of Ironbone Mountain. What is that? The sudden appearance of the lightning alarmed everyone in the Falling Star continent. Huff huff. Huff huff huff. After a while, a very familiar aura crazily surged. It contained the weight of martial arts, and also the sharpness of swordsmanship. "It's him." City Lord Xia walked out in his pajamas and said excitedly, "It's him." "Who?" "Our hero, the Dog Emperor. Didn't he break through the void and ascend to the higher realm?" City Lord Han was puzzled. "Why did he come down again?" Huff huff. In the Sect of all times, on the dust-filled training ground, majestic sword and martial arts auras crazily spread out. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others had rushed to the training ground as quickly as possible, and their eyes were shining with joy and excitement. Gradually, the dust dissipated, and the various spiritual energy waves weakened. Jun Changshao was half kneeling, his right elbow on his leg, and his fist on his forehead, as if he was thinking. "Patriarch!" Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji shouted excitedly. Swoosh! Jun Changshao stood up, his left hand on his chest, and his right hand gently raised. His head was still lowered, and he said, "Babies, did you miss me?" "Yes," everyone said in unison, and their faces were filled with bright smiles. The sky above the sect was gradually shrouded in a happy atmosphere. This was a complete sect of all times, a sect of all times with a soul. Jun Changshao, who had practiced in the higher realm for more than a month, not only did he successfully return to the Falling Star continent with the help of the Moonlight Cache, but he was also accurately teleported to the sect. The entire sect of all times suddenly became lively, especially in the cafeteria. The Golden Chef team led by Lu Wancher began to get busy, because the Patriarch had just ordered a banquet to celebrate a festival called the Mid-Autumn Festival. The host descended on the 9th of September, which corresponds to the lunar calendar, and more than a month in the higher realm. The Mid-Autumn Festival has long passed. The system roared. "I said today is the Mid-Autumn Festival, so it is. There's no need to discuss this, just listen to me." The disciples began to get busy preparing for the upcoming banquet. Jun Changshao went to Dragon Head Peak alone, and walked to the courtyard where he lived. However, he stopped when he reached the door, because Rose of Flowers was standing there, and she smiled sweetly. "You're back." She noticed Jun Changxiao's appearance at the training field, but she did not rush over with the disciples. Instead, she stood quietly in the courtyard like a wife waiting for her husband to return. "I heard from Qingyang and the others that you've been taking care of the sect all this time, so..." Jun Changxiao paused and said, "Thank you. The disciples respect me as the wife of the patriarch, so it's my duty to take care of my husband's sect," Rose of Roses said. "Moreover, Yuan Gongzi and Elder Wei are here, so I didn't really help much." The two stopped talking after a short exchange, and the atmosphere suddenly became quite awkward. Pa, the sect's photographer Li Tian, secretly poked his head out from behind a rock, took out his camera, and pressed the shutter button. A photo of Jun Changxiao and Rose of Flowers looking at each other outside the courtyard was born. The background was an extra round moon, to match the Mid-Autumn Festival. Huff huff. A bonfire rose in the training field, dispelling the chill and darkness. Jun Changxiao sat in front of the main hall, holding a glass of wine. The higher-ups and disciples of the sect all stood up, and collectively looked at him through the camera, and congratulated him. "On this joyous day, we hope the moonlight will bring the blessings of the sect of all times. May your dreams, your career, your family and everything be fulfilled. Come, let's drink up." Chapter 1339. Jun Changxiao did not return to the Falling Star continent to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival with his disciples. Therefore, on the second day after the banquet, he began to focus on the fortune of heaven and earth formation. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others originally wanted to ask about the upper realm, but seeing that the patriarch had locked himself in the room, they could only choose to continue cultivating. Although the energy given by Elder Taixian is very strong, it may not be able to really achieve the sect's ascension, so we still have to improve the formation. Jun Changxiao's brain worked quickly. Dense lines and formations appeared in his mind, and began to arrange and combine on their own. The process was very complicated. Therefore, after only 2 days of research, the new hair that grew with the magic hair growth agent began to fall out in large areas. The system was speechless. Hair loss is almost normal. No, it should be better. Jun Changxiao ignored everything and focused all his attention on modifying the fortune of heaven and earth formation. It was not until 5 days later that he opened his eyes and said, "It should be perfect now." The formation was still Elder Taishuan's formation, but after drastic changes, except for the framework, many routes had been completely changed. "I hope it works." Jun Changxiao pushed the door open and walked out of the room, and began to set up the formation around the sect. Buzz! After a while, a stream of light rushed into the sky, shining brightly. "It's here again." Li Qingyang and the others looked up at the solidified formation, and all of them were thinking, "Is the patriarch trying to ascend to the upper realm?" "Elder Zhen," Shengguan Xinyao said, "the formation that the patriarch set up this time is very different from last time." Zhen Dejuan said, "It should be improved." The layman enjoyed the show, while the expert appreciated the skill. Both of them had a good understanding of formations, and could see the changes in the fortune of heaven and earth formation. However, everyone was paying attention to the light barrier that had just appeared, except for Rose of Flowers, who stared at Jun Changxiao's shiny head the whole time, and thought to herself, "He still looks good like this." There was no one else she could focus on. After the fortune of heaven and earth grand array was successfully set up, Jun Changxiao carefully placed the 5 heavenly treasures in the eye of the array. Hoo-hoo! Under the operation of the formation, rich 5 elements attributes emerged and quickly enveloped the entire sect of all times. When the disciples felt the attributes that were thousands of times purer and more powerful than before, they were deeply shocked. Jun Changxiao did not expect that after the 5 treasures of heaven and earth were placed in the formation, the attributes of the 5 elements, which were not inferior to the upper realm, would emerge. There was hope. He should be able to ascend with his entire sect. Jun Changxiao did not activate the array immediately. Instead, he carefully checked it again to ensure that there were no accidents. The disciples of the sect were immersed in the powerful attributes, and a relaxed expression gradually appeared on their faces. This was especially so when they circulated the 5 elements heavenly reflection mantra slightly. They could clearly feel the 5 types of power surging madly into them. It was simply exhilarating. The existence of this brand new heaven and earth attribute was similar to the law. The disciples who were stuck at the peak of certain realms only needed to absorb it for a short while before they realized something. The 5 treasures of heaven and earth given by Elder Taixian were of a very high level. Now that they were supported by the formation, the heaven and earth attribute formed was no different from the upper realm. If there was a flaw, it would be that it only existed in the sect of all times within the formation. Second senior brother, Su Xiaoma said excitedly, with such majestic 5 elements attributes every day, we'll definitely break through realms very quickly. That's right. Li Qingyang's gaze was also burning. Who? Yi Xingchen stood in the courtyard and breathed in and out heavily. The spiritual meridians in his body were running wildly, and the frequency was so fast that it seemed like it would disappear if it was slower by a step. Too powerful. This is too powerful. Anyo had been completely conquered by the heaven and earth attribute of the upper realm. Night Emperor's arrogance was gone, and he was now more like a gluttonous child. Iwudi was also very excited. These attributes were obviously beyond the level of the mortal universe. If they were provided every day, they could definitely break through the realms of Wuxia, Grand Emperor, and other realms easily. The black and white Rakshas's mentality did not change, because the 2 of them relied on their supernatural powers to sneak into the lower realm. Their realms were temporarily suppressed. As long as they returned to the upper realm, they could slowly recover, and did not need to cultivate again like the last disciples. It could be said that, when the 5 heaven and earth attributes were supported by the formation, they formed a stronger and more profound energy. Although the sect of all times had not sneaked in yet, they had already experienced the treatment of the upper realm in advance. Disciples, listen up. Suddenly, Jun Changshao said loudly, follow me to the upper realm and conquer the world. Yes, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others shouted in unison. Their voices were so loud that it rippled throughout the entire Mount Ironbone. The camera gave them close-up shots one by one. Their bodies exuded an unyielding aura, and their eyes burned with fighting spirit. Swoosh! Standing in front of the center of the formation, Jun Changshao opened his hands, closed his eyes and secretly prayed. Whether we can ascend to the upper realm or not depends on this. The upper realm. I'm here with the sect. Whoosh! The great creation formation that enveloped the entire sect was suddenly activated. Every line and formation seemed to have been injected with a huge amount of energy, shining with a dazzling light. Rumble! Rumble! The peaceful falling star continent suddenly shook, startling all the martial artists, who thought there was an earthquake. When they saw a huge ball of light slowly floating up in the sky, they opened their mouths and widened their eyes. Bam! The huge ball of light flew to the highest point and violently collided with the plane barrier. Then a deep void crack instantly appeared. Seeing this, the martial artists of the falling star continent were so shocked that they could not be described with words. What's going on? What's going on? What's that huge ball of light? Whoosh! Just as everyone was dumbfounded, the huge ball of light merged into the void crack and disappeared. The sky that was dyed white as day returned to normal. However, the shock that it brought to the world in such a short time would definitely not be quelled in a short time. The next day, the entire falling star continent was in an uproar. This was because the Ironbone Mountain in the Azure Sun County had disappeared overnight. Along with it, the powerful Eternal Sect had also disappeared. This was definitely an earth-shattering news. After the news spread, everyone associated it with the phenomenon that happened yesterday. Could it be? That's right. Spirit Emperor Du Yinqing appeared in the sky and said, the sect of all times has ascended. As soon as he said that, the entire falling star continent fell into silence. Every martial artist's face stiffened. Everyone had heard of breaking through the void and ascending to the upper realm. For example, the old man of Taixien and the modern Empress Ling Yao. However, All of them had ascended alone. Today a sect had ascended. This was simply a dream. The upper realm. In the majestic hall of the realm hall, several dignified old men were frowning at this moment, because they had just discovered from a compass similar to an altar that the universe of the mortal world had been torn apart by some kind of power. Many creatures did not meet the stipulated requirements and were forcibly ascending. The spatial crack is in the falling star continent. Has the number been confirmed? Yes, at least 100,000. It's disgraceful for beings of the lower realm to forcibly ascend to the upper realm before reaching a certain level. Hurry up and inform Empress Lingyao. Tell her to stop these illegal immigrants. Just as the realm hall was discussing, the entire upper realm became lively. The originally calm sky suddenly began to tremble. Gradually a huge vortex formed, somewhat similar to a spatial tunnel. As for its location, it happened to be on Fengqi Celestial Mountain. It's over. The old man of Taixien, who had run to another mountain, looked at the huge vortex and broke down. This must be formed by the creation of heaven and earth array. In other words, although more people can be smuggled in with stronger 5 elements, it will also cause a bigger commotion. The realm hall must have discovered it already. The appearance of the vortex tunnel in the sky startled the entire upper realm. Many elders who had been cultivating in seclusion made an exception and came out to witness this unique phenomenon that had never happened before. Interesting. In front of a lake, a white-haired elder put down the fishing rod in his hand. A meaningful smile appeared on his face. An exquisite token hung on his waist. Because of his clothes and his line of sight, only the word Gu could be seen. Chapter 1340. The Taishan elder's idea was not bad. Using the upper realm's 5 elements as a source of energy could allow more people to ascend. However, he had overlooked a problem. One person could do it quietly, but what about 100,000 people? Today, Jun Changshao had used his actions to tell him that bringing so many people here would cause a natural phenomenon and make it known to the world. Therefore, the realm hall had already known before he had even arrived. The basic requirement for beings of the lower realm to ascend to the higher realm was to have a strong enough cultivation base. Suddenly, a group of people who did not meet the requirements and tried to force their way in would definitely be stopped. Strangely enough, the realm hall did not send out their elites immediately. Instead, they notified Empress Lingyao. This was quite interesting. Master, the hunchbacked elder frowned. It's the sect of all times who's ascending to the higher realm. The realm hall probably sent you to stop them, because they've been too partial to the Starfall continent in the planar battlefield. Sigh. That Jun Changshao fellow really doesn't let people have peace of mind. The hunchbacked elder said angrily. Master, you've helped him resolve the troubles he's caused on the battlefield many times. Now he dares to bring so many people here. Let's go. Empress Lingyao said calmly. Go stop them. Whoosh. Whoosh. 2 beams of light flew out of the palace and quickly merged into the depths of the void, heading towards the huge light that was trying to sneak up. After Empress Lingyao and her servant disappeared, a very domineering war chariot gradually formed in the void. The golden-armored man sitting on it said with interest, They won't go easy on us this time, will they? His name was Jin Hao. He was the chief executive who punished Jun Changshao in the planar battlefield. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In the tunnel formed between the lower realm and the higher realm, the huge white light was still breaking through the chains of the heavenly Tao, traveling at an unstoppable speed. Through the light, one could see that it was not a warship or a flying treasure. It was a complete mountain, with tall peaks and high-class buildings. That's right. This was the sect of all times that was trying to sneak in. We finally did it. Jun Changshao stood on the training field and looked at the scene around him, which seemed both real and illusory. He almost danced with joy. My babies, Go Sheng said loudly. We have already left the Starfall continent and are on the route to the upper realm. Therefore a new test awaits you. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others heard this and their eyes flashed with excitement. The upper realm was a sacred place that he didn't even dare to think about. Today he was on his way there. It really gave him a feeling of being in a dream. Patriarch. Elder Wei frowned. Isn't that a bit too loud? What if the upper realm finds out? It won't happen. Jun Changxiao made a solemn vow. Nobody knew when I went up earlier. Brother. It was a person. Now that he had brought the entire sect here, it was a completely different concept. Boom! At this moment, the rapidly ascending Mount Ironbone seemed to have collided with something. There was a slight tremor, but its speed was not hindered. Instead, it merged into the deeper space tunnel. The system said, "We have left the mortal universe and are entering the upper realms universe system." At this time, it couldn't be said that they had successfully sneaked in, because only by entering the upper realms space system could they be considered to have truly come up. Whoosh whoosh. Mount Ironbone seemed to be shrouded in holy light as it continued to move toward an unknown area. The higher-ups and disciples of the sect also began to imagine what was the difference between the upper realm and the lower realm. What kind of test would they experience in the future? At this moment, the sect was suddenly shrouded in an aura of advancement. Those disciples who were originally stuck in a certain realm showed signs of a breakthrough. The new and extremely powerful attributes of the 5 elements gathered around. The disciples who were not too high in level gained a lot just by absorbing a little of it with the 5 elements heavenly reflection technique. Haha, I've broken through Wu Huang. I've broken through too. I feel that advancing in level has never been easier. Along the way, more and more disciples entered a higher realm. This made Jun Changxiao agree with what the system said earlier. Even if they brought a dog to the upper realm, they could break through to the emperor level just by breathing. At this moment, the calmest person was Yi Xingchen. This was because he had ignored everything and sat cross-legged in his room to circulate his heart technique and physique. He began to absorb the attributes of heaven and earth like crazy. He even had the feeling of touching the 6th grade Wu Sheng. On Spirit Beast Peak, the Purple King covered his face and laughed. The closer the sect was to the upper realms universe system, the weaker the suppression from the heavenly axiom. In terms of strength, it was recovering bit by bit. It was the same for the black and white double ghosts. These 3 brothers relied on their special abilities to sneak in, but their levels were suppressed. The most tragic one was Hewudi. Because he was chased to the point of no return, he stubbornly forced his way to the lower realm. The result was that his level was reset, and he had to start from scratch. Did he regret it? He didn't regret it. Instead, he was glad. This was because although his level was gone, he had joined the sect of all times and relied on various mystical martial arts and facilities to strengthen himself again. He was stronger than before in all aspects. Whoosh whoosh. The Ironbone Mountain continued to rise as the disciples continued to break through. However, just as they were about to enter the upper realms universe system, a powerful force from above stopped the sect's ascension and forced them to stop. Jun Changxiao frowned. Yi Xingchen, who was cultivating, suddenly opened his eyes. His gaze was filled with extreme anger, and even his eyeballs were bloodshot. Jun Changxiao. A cold voice came from above the sect. You brought so many people to the upper realm without permission. Are you trying to rebel? The voice contained a strong sense of authority, causing the disciples' hearts to tremble violently. The black and white Rakshasas looked at each other and exclaimed, 9th transformation. Whoosh. At this moment, a graceful figure passed through the white light gathered by the formation and hung above the sect. Because of the clouds, it was difficult to see her face clearly. Whoosh whoosh. A vast and supreme aura spread wildly. Not only did it cause the disciples to feel pressured, but it also caused Jun Changxiao's expression to change. He asked, Who are you? Empress Lingyao. The entire sect fell silent. This name was heard by all the martial artists in the Starfall continent, and the sect of all times knew even better. It was not because she was awesome, but because she had an emotional entanglement with junior brother Yi in his previous life. So it's you. Jun Changxiao's eyes flashed with anger. Back then, he was punished in the realm battlefield. She definitely had something to do with it. Before you have absolute strength, forcibly ascending to the upper realm is not allowed. Empress Lingyao said indifferently. So quickly go down. As if you relied on your strength to ascend. Jun Changshao sneered. He really did not like this woman who relied on her methods and schemes to screw over the 10 great martial emperors, one by one before ascending alone. Cut the crap. Empress Lingyao said indifferently. I am here on the orders of the realm hall to stop you. If you insist on coming up, you will have to bear the consequences. Just as he was about to enter the higher world system, the main quest should have been completed. But Empress Lingyao had suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and even wanted to represent the higher world to stop him. This made Jun Changshao want to curse. Of course, Empress Lingyao said. If you insist on bringing so many people up, you will have to accept the punishment of the Myriad Tribulation Thunder Formation. Myriad Tribulation Thunder Formation. The black and white Rakshas's expressions changed. Chapter 1341. Since ancient times, anyone who broke through the void and ascended to the upper realm had to go through all sorts of tests. The most common was being struck by lightning, also known as the tribulation. This tribulation came from the upper realm and was formed by the power of the Great Path. Under normal circumstances, the ascender would be struck once, but there were also those who were unlucky enough to be struck multiple times. If they survived, they would ascend successfully, but if not, their souls would be destroyed. The tribulation was not always the same, because there were always some unruly mortal beings who needed special treatment. The upper realm had created the thunder formation of 10,000 tribulations, specifically to entertain those who did not submit to heaven and earth. Jun Changshao had brought his entire sect to the upper realm, and was definitely an extremely unruly branch master. It was normal for him to be given special treatment by the thunder formation of 10,000 tribulations. However, the black and white Rakshas's expressions changed. They had heard of this formation that was even scarier than the tribulation. It was said that since its creation, no one had ever succeeded, and their souls were destroyed. Moreover, the thunder formation of 10,000 tribulations had another setting, and that was to increase its power according to the number of lightning bolts. This would eliminate the idea of using special storage treasures to bring martial artists over. The patriarch had brought 100,000 disciples and was caught red-handed by the realm hall. If he had to go through this formations test, then, little brother, the black Rakshasa hurriedly sent a telepathic message. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Let's go back first. Jun Changshao said seriously. The upper realm has to go. No one can stop us. Half of the 5 types of energy in the formation had been used up. It could not be activated again when they returned to the falling star continent, so the only choice was to force their way through. I need to remind you, Empress Lingyao said. The thunder formation of 10,000 tribulations will increase the power of the tribulation according to the number of people. Since you brought so many people here, the test you will have to endure will be. Cut the crap. Jun Changshao said proudly. I'm in a hurry. Hurry up and activate the formation. Although he could not see the face of the woman in front of him, the aura she exuded was invincible. If she attacked him directly, he might not be able to fight back. However, if she used the tribulation to stop him, there was still a glimmer of hope. Since you are so stubborn, then prepare to be punished by the thunder formation of 10,000 tribulations. After Empress Lingyao finished speaking, she turned and flew outside. Although she had already noticed Yi Xingchen's presence, she had never taken a look at him. Master, the hunchbacked elder sent a telepathic message. I'm afraid that the upper realm has another reason for sending you here to stop them. Won't they resent you for letting them go through the formation of heavenly thunder tribulation? I'm just following the procedures they've set. Why would they complain? Empress Lingyao asked. The stooped old man fell silent. Swish! Empress Lingyao flew out of the sect of all times and retracted the power that was suppressing their advance, allowing the Mount of Iron Bones to continue forward with the help of the fortune of heaven and earth grand formation. Buzz! At the border between the lower realm and the upper realm, a formation boundary visible to the naked eye was gradually gathering, and the majestic power of thunder and lightning instantly erupted. This was the formation of 10,000 thunder tribulation. Rather than saying that it was man-made, it would be more accurate to say that it was the last line of defense to prevent mortals from trespassing. TSK. Standing in front of the thunder matrix that had just been activated, the golden-armored man slowly appeared on the war chariot and said, "The Jia Hall sent you to stop them, meaning to destroy them, but you activated the thunder matrix of 10,000 calamities and let them pass. Am I wrong?" Empress Ling Yao said indifferently. "That's right." The golden-armored man smiled. "It's in line with the rules of the upper realm, but..." He paused, then laughed strangely. "Don't get your hopes up. After all, this is the thunder matrix of 10,000 calamities. It's different from the lightning punishment on the battlefield. If they force their way in, they'll definitely die." Empress Ling Yao said indifferently. "You think I'm helping them by testing them with the thunder matrix? With your strength, you could easily crush these falling star continent martial artists. Why do you have to go through so much trouble?" The golden-armored man shrugged. "Because at least there's a chance of survival. If they force their way in, it'll be as good as legalizing ascension, and the Jia Hall won't say anything." "Jin Hao," Empress Ling Yao said. "People like you who think too much often die young." "Ha ha ha." Jin Hao laughed loudly and said, "You plan to kill me to silence me?" Empress Ling Yao was still shrouded in mist, making it difficult to see her expression. "Is there a problem with me using the thunder matrix of 10,000 calamities to stop a large number of mortals from ascending? That's why I can't compare to you in terms of thinking." Jin Hao spread his hands. "You know how powerful the thunder matrix of 10,000 calamities is. With so many people trying to force their way in, they'll definitely be killed if they get close to the edge of the matrix. If they can't make it in, then they deserve it. If they do, then it's because of luck. You don't have to worry about it." Empress Ling Yao said indifferently. "I won't leave." Jin Hao smiled. "Because the Jia Hall sent me here to supervise. They're afraid that some people will be merciful, because we're from the same hometown." Crack, crack, crack. Just then, the thunder matrix of 10,000 calamities flowing light boundary began to spit out lightning snakes, erupting with even more powerful lightning energy waves. This attribute was similar to the lightning punishment that had punished Jun Changshao, but in terms of scale and intensity, it was obviously stronger. "Little brother." The black Rakshasa released his spiritual senses and captured the lightning punishment matrix blocking the space tunnel ahead. He said seriously, "Are you sure you want to go in?" "Yes," Jun Changshao said with a resolute gaze. Time no longer allowed him to start over. So even if it was a mountain of blades and a sea of flames, he had to go in. Moreover, with his rich clinical experience of being struck by lightning, he was at least somewhat confident. "All right." The black Rakshasa clenched his fist. "Big brother will go in with you." "Damn it." The white Rakshasa rolled up his sleeves and cursed. "I've been through a lot of life and death in my life. I've already seen through everything." Both of them knew how terrifying the thunder matrix of 10,000 calamities was. But since their little brother did not back down, as sworn brothers, they naturally had to share the joys and sorrows. Kakik. The Purple King jumped down from Spirit Beast Peak and stood on the training ground, laughing strangely. "I've never played something so exciting. Stealing dragon eggs was fun, but it paled in comparison to this power that represented the will of the upper realm's heavenly axiom." Stomp. Stomp. Elder Wei, Ding Xingwang, and the other upper echelons of the sect walked out. They stood behind Jun Changshao, and their eyes were filled with determination. "Here," Jun Changshao said seriously, "leave it to me and the two guardians." Stomp, stomp, stomp. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the other core disciples walked over and stood behind him shouting, "We will share honor and disgrace with the sect, advance and retreat together." As they got closer to the thunder matrix that contained the power of the heavenly axiom, the powerful aura made it difficult for them to breathe. But the disciples were not afraid at all. This was because they remembered the first principle of the sect of all times to be unyielding people and do unyielding things. "You guys." Jun Changshao shook his head and looked up at the thunder matrix that represented the authority of the upper realm. he said with a majestic voice. Then follow me to take the first step of conquering the world. Hoo-hoo. Hoo-hoo-hoo. The Ironbone Mountain that carried more than 100,000 disciples of the sect of all times charged fearlessly toward the upper realm, and toward the thunder matrix of 10,000 calamities that was blocking their way. No matter what the result was, it would eventually become a legend in the mortal world. Chapter 1342. Kaboom! Suddenly, a deafening explosion came from the vortex in the upper realm's sky. Visible ripples spread out from the inside of the vortex. Thunder. That's quite a big commotion. The natural phenomenon alarmed all the powerhouses, so they kept their eyes on the vortex. When they heard the sound and saw the ripples, they started guessing. Wait a minute. Why did the energy that spread out contain the power of the heavenly axiom? Could it be? A relatively strong martial artist thought of something and exclaimed, "This is the Thousand Thunder Tribulation Formation?" That's right. A big shot who could extend his spiritual senses into the tunnel said seriously, "It's the Thousand Thunder Tribulation Formation, and it's already activated. Is someone trying to break into the upper realm? There's more than one. Otherwise, the Thousand Thunder Tribulation Formation wouldn't have been activated. Looks like there's someone in the lower realm who wants to rely on his own strength to fight against the upper realm's rules. It's happened many times over the years, but in the end, their souls were all destroyed." Everyone looked at the vortex with interest. They actually hoped that someone would break in. After all, no one had broken this record until now. It's over, the Taishian elder said bitterly. The Realm Hall activated the Thousand Thunder Tribulation Formation to stop that kid from sneaking in with his sect. I'm afraid this dark star will be annihilated before it even has time to shine. He still thought highly of Jun Changshao, so he was willing to lend him 5 heaven and earth attributes. However, if he died, wouldn't the IOU in his hands be wasted? Boom! Boom! Frequent thunder came from the vortex again. The rhythm was so fast that it made everyone's scalp tingle. Actually, there were many ascenders in the upper realm. They had all personally experienced the pain of being hit by the thunder tribulation. Boom! Boom! The sound of thunder stopped after the 9th time. It's over. 9 lightning tribulations. Mortals simply can't withstand it. However, to be able to withstand so many means that the ascenders are quite strong. Boom, boom, boom. Just as everyone was discussing, a new round of thunderclaps rang out, and the interval between each one was shorter than the previous one. Their souls weren't destroyed. The formation of heavenly thunder tribulation is still in operation. The martial artists from the upper realm were stunned. As more and more thunderous sounds interweaved into a beautiful rhythm, their expressions gradually froze. Boom, boom. 36 times, 37 times. Boom, boom, boom. 123 times, 124 times. Thunder continued to roar in the vortex. While the cultivators were in a daze, they were also memorizing the number of times they had been struck by the thunder tribulation. After 200 strikes, they entered a short period of silence again. I'll go. Is he still human? He endured 200 lightning tribulations before he was killed. Boom, boom, boom. The martial artists who thought it was over heard a series of thunderclaps. Their expressions stiffened, and they felt a heavy blow to their hearts. If it weren't for the fact that their strength didn't allow them to do so, they would have flown into the tunnel a long time ago, to personally witness which great god was forcefully ascending through the tribulation. Tsk Tisk. The white-haired elder sitting in front of the lake's murky eyes seemed to be able to pierce through the void. He muttered, "This group of little fellows' willpower isn't bad. If they come to the higher realms and nurture them a bit, they should be able to become great talents." He focused his gaze on the young man with a bald head, who looked like a leader. He said in surprise, "This kid's equipment is a bit special. In terms of level, it doesn't seem to be inferior to the warship I created." Speaking of warships, the elder stroked his chin and muttered to himself, "Has the warship I left in the dimensional battlefield been found by the martial artists of the mortal realms?" Boom! Boom! In the space tunnel, bolts of lightning tore through the air. The originally dark environment was rendered as bright as day. The scene was so shocking that it couldn't be described with words. However, in this environment filled with the power of the Great Path and the Thunder Tribulation, the Ironbone Mountain shrouded in white light was like a lone boat in a stormy sea that could be destroyed at any time. At this moment, the white light wasn't gathered by the creation of heaven and earth great array. Instead, it was an energy barrier gathered by Jun Changshao, who was wearing the Xianyuan divine armor, the great sage Sect, and other equipment. The black and white Rakshasas stood on both sides, and also fully activated their cultivation to support him against the Thunder Tribulation. Their strength wasn't inferior to Jun Changxiao's. It wasn't a problem for them to resist the Thunder Tribulation that contained the power of the Great Path. However, if they continued to resist, even if they weren't struck to death, they would be exhausted to death first. The Purple King's expression was ferocious as he hovered in another direction. He didn't cultivate martial arts and couldn't help support the barrier. Hence, he could only take off his clothes and guard the other place where the Thunder Tribulation struck. The main point of attack was the area where Jun Changshao was. He had only withstood 3 strikes in total. However, because he used his fists to resist, the damage to his soul was so exhilarating that it felt like exploding. Boom! All of a sudden, another bolt of tribulation lightning shot towards him. Although the Purple King received it, he was still blasted to the ground and immediately spat out blood. Boom! Another bolt of lightning struck from the sky. Its power was as strong as ever. This made him roar angrily. I'm going to get serious now. Huff! 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 A violent demonic aura emerged from his body, and a body that was dozens of feet tall stood above the Sect gate, resisting the power of the thunder punishment. Z activated his true form and transformed into the purple vast Dao Kuan. The red underwear on the tip of his fins was especially eye-catching. While the Hall Master, Guardian, and Hall Master were resisting the Thunder Tribulation, the disciples of the Sect of all times weren't idle either. At this moment, they were either gathered at the martial arts practice field or at the various mountain peaks. They began to set up the 4 Seas Heaven and Earth formation tacitly. Drizzle Peak deployment complete. Medical Peak deployment complete. Array Formation Peak deployment complete. War Cavalry Peak deployment complete. Food Peak deployment complete. When the voices sounded from the various mountain peaks, Shui Rengui, who was at the martial arts practice field, raised the battle flag and shouted, "Form the formation!" Swish! Swish! Light rays shot up into the sky and connected with each other automatically. Buzz! In an instant, a large-scale 4 Seas Heaven and Earth formation formed with the participation of all the disciples of the Sect. It was like a Sect-protecting formation, forming a sturdy defensive barrier around Ironbone Mountain. After Jun Changshao obtained this formation, he had fantasized about the day when the entire Sect would collectively set it up. Today, when he barged into the upper realm, he finally got to see it as he wished. Boom! Boom! The Thunder Tribulation, which represented the authority of the upper realm, blasted mercilessly on the 4 Seas Heaven and Earth formation's flowing light barrier. The impact caused all the participating disciples to look ferocious. Charge out! Jun Changshao shouted angrily. Share the Thunder Tribulation's power with them as much as possible. Swish! Swish! The black and white Rakshasa rushed out from the formation. The 2 of them hovered at the forefront and unleashed their full cultivation, trying their best to resist the Thunder Tribulation. Jun Changshao was about to fly out when the Rose of Flowers pounced over and hugged him from behind. She pressed her face against his back and said gently, "Let me assist you." Huff! Huff! Green attributes instantly spread out. Swish! Jun Changshao flew out from it and hovered outside the formation set up by the disciples. His pupils and eyebrows had all changed color. He's here. He's here. Fusion Lord Rose. Although the Rose of Flowers' current strength was inferior to Jun Changxiao's, as a professional support clan, it could still provide him with a very good increase in strength. Boom! Boom! 2 thunder tribulations with terrifying pressure spewed out from the thunder formation. Jun Changshao waved one hand, and the Sky Tyrant's spear appeared out of thin air. His body was enveloped by all kinds of energy as he rushed up and roared angrily. "No one can stop me!" Ding! The main quest is completed. Calculating. Chapter 1343. The 10,000 Tribulation Heavenly Thunder Formation, activated by Empress Ling. Yao happened to be at the critical point of the upper world's universe system. Jun Changshao and the others resisted the lightning strikes as they struggled to move forward. In other words, although he and his sect had not yet merged into the new plane, they had already merged into the new universe system. Hence, they had fulfilled the mission's conditions and successfully entered the end of the mission. The timing was very delicate, because if Empress Ling Yao had placed a little lower to stop Jun Changshao from entering the lower realms universe system, they would have had to go through the lightning formation to complete the mission. Gosheng was not in the mood to think about the mission. Although he had fulfilled the criteria, he and his sect were still in great danger. "Stupid," the system said. "After the mission is over, the bomb will be gone, and the host can return to the lower realm." Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. The reason he could not wait to come up was that there were only a few dozen days left for the bomb. Why should he rush to the upper realm after the mission was over? Holding out until the mission was over was a good idea. But, after taking the 2 lightning strikes, Jun Changshao clenched his fists and looked up at the lightning formation. He said angrily, "Since I'm here, how can I not destroy this thing?" Humans were all hot-blooded, and Gosheng was no exception. Hence, this formation that represented the authority of the upper realm must be destroyed today to slap Empress Ling Yao's face and the Jietang's face. If Yi Xingchen knew what the patriarch was thinking, he would have roared, "You told me to hold it in, and now you're the one who can't control your emotions." Boom! Boom! The power of the lightning strikes fell like crazy. Some of it was blocked by Jun Changshao and the black and white Rakshasa, while the rest was neutralized by the 4 corners heaven and earth formation. "It's too slow," Jin Hao said. "If it were me, there would have been thousands of lightning strikes." Empress Ling Yao said, "The original intention of the upper realm ancestors when they created this formation was not to kill, but to leave a glimmer of hope in the midst of despair." "Fine, fine," Jin Hao said. "Pretend I didn't say anything." Actually, there was nothing wrong with Empress Ling Yao's punishment. She had been releasing the lightning punishment step by step. The only reason she couldn't do anything to the sect of all times was because they were truly capable. "This is just the beginning." Jin Hao crossed his arms and said with interest, "Entering the core area of the lightning array is a real nightmare. At that time, Your Majesty, please don't go easy on him." "I've always been following the rules of the World Hall," Empress Ling Yao said. "Yes." Jin Hao smiled and said, taking advantage of the loopholes in the Jia Hall to do things. Ever since this guy had appeared, he had been speaking in a sarcastic manner, which made Empress Ling Yao very unhappy. But because of the Realm Hall, she could only choose to remain silent. Boom! Boom! Sure enough, as the Iron Bone Mountain continued to advance, the number, speed, and power of the Thunder Punishment power were even faster than before. One after another, disciples were shaken to the point of spitting out blood. Fortunately, the 4 corners heaven and earth formation that Zhu Zong had set up was very strong. It withstood the lightning punishment all the way up. This kind of formation that used people as the eye of the formation depended on the number and strength of the formation. Therefore, the situation now was that the entire sect of all times was working together to resist the will of the upper realm. Ask loudly, who in the mortal universe could do that? Although the 4 corners heaven and earth formation exploded with great power, the thunder punishment power was still a great threat to them. More and more disciples were injured from resisting the terrifying power of the upper realm. When they were about to collapse, they could only take healing pills to keep going. This kind of pill could only be taken once in a short period of time. Therefore, if the thunder punishment power continued to increase in speed, the formation would eventually be broken. Jun Changshao and the twin ghosts of Black and White wanted to share the burden, but there were also many thunder punishment power that were attacking them. They couldn't do anything. The saddest one was the Purple King. The advantage of transforming into his true form was that his defense was greatly increased. However, with a larger body, he could withstand more attacks. Boom boom boom. Ah! The Great Hall Master Z tried his best to share more of the thunder punishment power with his huge body, but he was screaming in pain from the explosions. This was also thanks to the fact that he was already in the upper realm universe system. The restrictions that once suppressed his strength were slowly being lifted. Otherwise, he would have died long ago. Therefore, Jun Changxiao's main mission met the requirements. But based on the current situation, the sect of all times under the 10,000 Tribulation Thunder Formation had no chance of surviving at all, unless they had the help of an expert. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the main mission. You have gained abundant martial arts experience points. Ding! The host has successfully broken through to the upper level of the void-piercing state. Ding! As the host has successfully completed the main mission, the soul bomb will be removed immediately. Hearing the notification of the completion of the mission, Jun Changxiao didn't feel any joy. Instead, he roared in despair. Why is there no reward at all? Although advancing to the upper level of the void-piercing state could better resist the thunder punishment power, there was no way to reverse the situation. Ding! The host has completed the mortal world main mission and is now in the upper realm. You have met the requirements. The upper realm version of the strongest Sect system is officially activated. Please purchase the upper realm version gift pack in the purchased items section. Jun Changxiao hurriedly opened the purchased items section and immediately found an item called the upper realm version gift pack. The purchase requirement was 1 contribution point. This price was very cheap. Ding! The host has spent 1 contribution point and obtained the upper realm version gift pack X1. It has been transferred into the spatial ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 200000. In this situation where the sect could completely collapse at any time, Jun Changxiao opened the gift pack without any hesitation. Ding! The host has opened the newbie gift pack. Obtained Escape Talisman X1, Vajra Talisman X1, Flight Talisman X1, Seal Opening Talisman X1. Hearing the notification, Jun Changxiao almost broke down. Damn it! Didn't the Escape Talisman, Endurance Talisman, and Speed Talisman from the Mortal World Newbie Gift Pack change their names? There is definitely a difference, the system said. Jun Changxiao was no longer a martial arts newbie. From the name, he could roughly determine that the brand new talisman from the gift pack was definitely only suitable for a single person and could not resolve the current danger. Right. Since the system of the upper realm version gave the gift pack, there must be a wish. Jun Changxiao roared in his heart. My wish is to be the boss of the upper realm. Ding! Dream on. I want to be the top powerhouse of the upper realm. Ding! In your dreams. These words did not come from the system's assistants, but from the system itself. Although the words were simple, they hit the nail on the head and caused a ton of damage to Jun Changxiao. Ding! The host has broken through to the upper level of the void-piercing state. Requirement met. Epic mission activated. Just as Go Sheng was thinking about his wish, another notification sounded in his ears. He hurriedly pulled open the mission panel and clicked on the details. Upper Realm Epic Mission 1. Mission details. The host must lead the sect to successfully pass through the 10,000 Thunder Tribulation Formation, so that he and his disciples will have the legal identity of ascension. Mission failure. Unable to pass through the 10,000 Thunder Tribulation Formation, or choose to escape. Mission reward. Fine. The system was speechless. The host has to pass through now. You're poisoning me again. Jun Changxiao roared. Although he appeared to be very stubborn just now and insisted on fighting the 10,000 Thunder Tribulation Formation to the end, in reality, he already had a choice in his heart. If it did not work out, he would retreat. After all, where there was life, there was hope. Now it was fine. As soon as the words came out of the poison milk's mouth, an epic mission that no one was allowed to jump out of the car after the door was welded shut was immediately presented. Can you blame me? The system roared. Forget it, forget it. After Jun Changxiao received a few more lightning strikes, he roared in his heart. My wish is to help me and the sect pass through the 10,000 thunder tribulation formation smoothly. Ding! The host's wish of the upper realm has been fulfilled. A modified lightning rod is rewarded. Chapter 1344. When he heard the reward's first wish, Jun Changxiao's expression gradually stiffened. I'm being struck by lightning. And you're helping me by giving me a lightning rod. Can't you be more serious? The host chose it. The system said, it's reasonable. Boom. Boom. At this moment, more and more powerful lightning punishment forces emerged from the sky. Jun Changxiao had no time to think. He hurriedly took out a lightning rod that looked like a small stick from his space ring, and raised it shyly. Whoosh! Suddenly, the weapon in his hand changed and turned into a scepter. The top was in the shape of a cross, and the top was in the shape of a spear. It seemed to have the effect of avoiding lightning. At first glance, it looked like an ancient halberd. She's quite pleasing to the eye. Jun Chang smiled. At least it looked better than the finger of wisdom. Even if the effect was only to avoid lightning, it could be used as a weapon to show off. Right. This is a divine modification. It should have special effects. Jun Changxiao took the opportunity to take a look, and found that there was a groove on it. It was obviously a switch to activate the special effects. As more lightning punishment was about to strike, he didn't have time to study it. He hurriedly raised the divine modified lightning rod high and thought to himself, the second first wish equipment, please don't let me down. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, 20 lightning punishment forces fell, and the explosion and light produced instantly engulfed him. The black and white double Rakshasa were dumbfounded, because the 5 lightning punishment forces that were originally aimed at them suddenly changed their trajectory and hit the little brother next to them. The Purple King, who was in his original form, also stopped screaming, because the lightning punishment that was attacking him also changed its trajectory and hit the Patriarch. To be exact, 20 lightning punishment forces fell from different directions, but in a short moment, as if they were attracted by some force, they all rushed to Jun Changxiao's area. It was as if they were born to be struck by lightning. Boom boom boom. Boom 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 boom. The thunder formation of 10,000 calamities was still crazily spewing out lightning punishment forces. Although they came from different directions, and could reach a certain range of Ironbone Mountain, they would always be pulled to Jun Changxiao's area, and then bombarded. The black and white Rakshasa relaxed. The Purple King, and the disciples of the sect of all times were relieved. Then they looked on with great interest, as the Patriarch was struck by lightning. Tsk tisk. Jin Hao grinned and said, this kid must have done something that angered the heavens, and the people in the mortal plane. Otherwise, he wouldn't be taken care of like this by the formation. Empress Ling Yao remained silent. The hunchbacked old man standing behind her shook his head. That brat and the entire sect were gradually entering the core area of the array formation, and they were being specifically targeted. The result was certain death. Patriarch! The faces of Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others turned ferocious. They blamed themselves for being too weak, and being unable to resolve the lightning tribulation for the Patriarch during the crisis. Don't worry. Suddenly, Jun Changxiao used telepathy to at everyone and said, I'm completely fine. The disciples were stunned for a moment, then ecstasy appeared on their faces. The Patriarch was being bombarded by lightning and light, so it was difficult to see him clearly, so they couldn't be sure that he was safe. Now that they heard his voice and that he was normal, they were relieved. The thing that little brother took out just now should be able to withstand the lightning tribulation. This might have something to do with Senior Tonggu. The black and white Rakshasa guessed. He would, he thought. Is the Patriarch unable to resist using the treasure left behind by Senior Qishuan to resolve the formation of tribulation heavenly thunder? Yi Xingchen and the Purple King were also imagining things. Whoosh whoosh. The lightning tribulation continued to strike, and the Ironbone Mountain continued to rise until it finally entered the core area. Boom 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 boom. In an instant, lightning appeared from all directions, and the number increased from a few dozen to a few hundred. Then, they struck from all directions without any blind spots, and the scene that appeared instantly tore the space apart. It's over, Jin Hao said lazily. The core area of the formation of tribulation Heavenly Thunder was undoubtedly the most dangerous place. Not to mention a mortal martial artist, even a powerhouse from the upper realm, would have to bear the consequences. Boom boom boom. The sound of the lightning tribulation's bombardment became extremely frequent, and it was transmitted through the space tunnel in the upper realm, causing many martial artists' expressions to change. They couldn't remember how many times they had been struck, but the only thing they could be sure of was that since the formation of tribulation Heavenly Thunder was still operating and was emitting a huge commotion, it meant that the guy struck by lightning was still alive. Since when did the lower realm have such an awesome existence? Who is it? The martial artists from the upper realm were very interested in the intruder, and even a little impressed. After all, it was inconceivable that he could withstand such a large-scale bombardment until now. Of course, more people were silently mourning in their hearts. After all, such frequent bombardment meant that the other party had already entered the core area of the lightning formation. Since ancient times, no one had successfully survived. The white-haired old man sitting in front of the lake watched everything unfold in the space tunnel, and then said in surprise, "This kid is a little interesting. He's still alive after enduring for so long. It's a pity that I have no intention of taking him in as a disciple. Otherwise, I would save such a good seedling even if I have to offend the realm hall." Inside the formation of tribulation Heavenly Thunder, all kinds of energy exploded, and the light was as bright as day, but it couldn't stop the Ironbone Mountain from moving up bit by bit. Jin Hao, who had been smiling, was a little stunned, because from beginning to end, all the lightning tribulation's bombardment had been directed at the area where the kid was. That's not right. With such a scale of attack, he should have been reduced to ashes long ago. But why was the lightning tribulation's power still surging forward, and not spreading out to attack the moving mountain? Boom! Boom! The lightning tribulation's power was still going, but it was beginning to weaken, and the number gradually fell to 150-20. Jin Hao's expression was unusually ugly, because the reduction of the lightning tribulation's power meant that the mountain carrying the sect had already passed the core area. "You saw it too," Empress Ling Yao said calmly. "I have been carrying out my punishment according to the rules, but I still can't do anything about this sect that has forcefully ascended." Jin Hao's expression turned even uglier. The entire punishment process and the control of the formation of tribulation Heavenly Thunder were flawless, and there was no way she was going easy on them. Whoosh whoosh. Just then, the Ironbone Mountain carrying 100,000 people passed through the edge of the lightning formation, which meant that the sect of all times had successfully passed the tribulation. Hiss 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 hiss. The lightning in the bombardment area gradually weakened, and Jun Changshao floated proudly in midair, his hands behind his back as he looked at Empress Ling Yao, his gaze cold. "I have successfully brought my disciple through the lightning formation. What else does the realm hall have to say? According to the rules of the upper world, any living being who has passed the formation of tribulation Heavenly Thunder is considered to have ascended legally, so." Empress Ling Yao paused. "You may pass. Farewell," Jun Changshao said coldly. Whoosh whoosh. The Ironbone Mountain continued to move towards the whirlpool that connected to the upper world under the guidance of the creation of heaven and earth. "Jun Changshao," Empress Ling Yao said, "the one sitting on the chariot is Jin Hao, who was in charge of punishing you in the realm battlefield." "Oh." Jun Changshao turned to look at the arrogant golden-armored man, his lips curling into a faint smile. Jin Hao said coldly, "Kid, you're lucky that you didn't die under the power of the lightning tribulation. But remember, when you come to the upper world, you must behave yourself. Don't do anything wrong and fall into my hands." "He tue." Jun Changshao spat a mouthful of phlegm. "He tue." All the disciples imitated the sect master and began to puke. Jin Hao was so angry that he almost flew over and slapped all these trash from the mortal world to death. Golden-haired. Jun Changshao raised his hand and crooked his finger. Come, come. After I settle the Iron Bone Mountain in the upper world, we'll fight one-on-one. The black and white Rakshasas almost collapsed. Little brother, you were able to withstand the formation of myriad tribulation, heavenly thunder for such a long time, which is indeed very shocking. But this golden-armored man in front of you is at least in the 9th revolution. Aren't you tired of living if you fight him one-on-one? Are you sure? Jin Hao asked. Jun Changshao said proudly, I'm sure and sure. Jin Hao looked at Empress Ling Yao and shrugged. He was the one who declared war. I'm not the one bullying him. Chapter 1345. Jun Changshao did not know that Jin Hao was the one who was punished in the interdimensional battlefield, but he knew that Empress Ling Yao must have her reasons for mentioning it. Could it be that the two of them were not on good terms? She wanted him to think about it first, so that she could kill him with a borrowed knife? This woman was not simple. He had just ascended, and she was already scheming against him. If that was the case, he would do as she wished. And so Jun Changshao challenged Jin Hao to a one-on-one battle. Was Go Sheng getting a little carried away? No, he knew better than anyone that breaking through the thunder formation of 10,000 tribulations did not mean that he could fight against the upper realm cultivators. That formation was only used to prevent mortals from sneaking into the upper realm. Although its power was terrifying, it could not be compared to a reincarnation core cultivator. The reason he challenged him was to test out the effects of the divine modified lightning rod. When he was bombarded by the lightning tribulation, not only was he unscathed, but the grooves were even brighter now. This meant that the first wish equipment could not only avoid lightning, but also condense lightning. Since he had snuck into the upper realm legally, he would not cause trouble. Could he just go through the procedure and challenge him? Yes, because the upper realm was also very particular about martial arts. Challenges were often sacred matters. To put it bluntly, Jun Changshao not only wanted to test the power of the lightning rod, he also wanted to return the frustration of being struck by lightning. The black and white Rakshasas did not know, so Jin Hao was speechless when the patriarch challenged him. The reincarnation core cultivators, who had reached the 9th transformation in the upper realm, were not as simple as the first rank to 9th rank in the mortal world. The difference between each transformation was huge, and a second transformation cultivator could even beat a few first transformation cultivators. Little brother was only at the void-piercing realm, and he wanted to fight the highest 9th transformation cultivators. Was he not looking for death? Empress Ling Yao was also surprised that Jun Changshao would challenge Jin Hao. This kid is only at the void-piercing realm. If you feel proud of beating him, you can agree, she said calmly. Jin Hao smiled. Of course I wouldn't care about a piece of trash who just ascended, but the problem is that he challenged me. How can I be afraid of a battle? Now that they have ascended legally, the rest has nothing to do with me. Empress Ling Yao led the old man away. Ling Yao. Yi Xingchen finally lost control of his emotions. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth with bloodshot eyes. Just you wait. Ever since that woman appeared, he had always treated himself as invisible and suppressed his anger, because he knew that he was not worth mentioning in front of her. It had to be said that Anyo was more mature and steady than before. However, when he saw that Jun Changshao dared to declare war against an extremely powerful guy, he couldn't bear it any longer. Sigh. It wasn't easy for such an arrogant person to become normal, but under the influence of the patriarch, he started to go astray again. Therefore, in order to be a normal person in the sect of all times, one had to have Lu Qianqian's state of mind. TSK. Jin Hao grinned. You seem to have a story with him. Although Empress Ling Yao had stopped, her back was still facing Yi Xingchen. I don't know this person. With that, he disappeared into the void with the hunchbacked old man. Jin Hao looked at Jun Changshao and said, I'll wait for you in the upper realm. Don't stand me up. Whoosh! The war chariot turned around and merged into the void. Seeing that they had all left, Jun Changshao turned around and said, Anyo, you were too impulsive. Yi Xingchen wanted to say that he was nothing compared to the patriarch, But he still chose to return to his residence and shut himself in his room. Empress Lingyao's appearance made him realize that there was a huge gap between them. Therefore, when he went to the upper realm, he had to train even harder. Whoosh! In the sky, the Iron Bone Mountain flew out of the vortex and slowly landed on Fengqi Celestial Mountain. The cultivators who had been guessing all this time saw the mountain descending, and the many uniformed people gathered on it. Their expressions became more and more interesting. Could these be the mortals who had forcefully ascended? There were too many of them. And, if they could fly in, did they pass the tribulation successfully? Those powerful cultivators had already seen what was happening inside. They all exclaimed. They resisted the thunder formation of 10,000 calamities and forced their way in. This sect supported by the mountain is not simple. Kaboom! Under everyone's gaze, the Iron Bone Mountain from the falling star continent finally landed on an empty space on Fengqi Celestial Mountain. The energy around it was also depleted by the formation. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Whoosh 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 whoosh. All kinds of heaven and earth elements in the upper realm rushed in like waves and quickly covered the entire Iron Bone Mountain. Under the creation formation of heaven and earth, only the 5 elements existed. Now that they were in a new world, there were many more elements. The Taishan elder's mouth twitched. He did not expect that guy to come up after such a big commotion, and the realm hall used the thunder formation of 10,000 calamities to stop them. The most infuriating thing was that the entire mountain was stacked on top of Fengqi Celestial Mountain. They were obviously trying to steal his territory. Forget it, forget it. Anyway, he was indifferent to fame and fortune, and focused on studying the art of divination. Since this guy brought the entire sect here, he might as well give this place to him. No! The Taishan elder slapped his forehead and exclaimed, "The Sword Mystic faction and the Sharp Blade Mystic faction will definitely come." Swoosh! He hurriedly flew towards Fengqi Celestial Mountain. He thought that the supernova he thought highly of would die under the lightning tribulation. Now that he had successfully come up, he would definitely have great achievements in the future. He naturally could not watch him get bullied by the mystic factions. Therefore, at this time, the role of a fellow villager would be reflected. At least, they would help him when he was in danger. I am the Taishan elder. I am panicking now, because he had come to his territory, and was about to tell that guy to be more careful in the future. A war chariot suddenly appeared above the mountain. A golden-armored man whose strength had reached the 9th transformation stage was sitting on it. From his clothes, he must be from the realm hall. From his aura, he must have come with ill intentions. Time to run, time to run. The Taishan elder was about to pick up his luggage and leave again when he heard Jun Changshao say, "Master, please be my witness today. I want to fight with this person." Master, the black and white Rakshasa, He Woody, and the Purple King all looked over. They realized that although the old man gave off the feeling of an immortal, he did not seem to be very strong. Therefore they muttered in their hearts, "Could it be that the patriarch has more than one master?" Jin Hao looked at the Taishan elder with interest and said, "So he is your disciple?" The Taishan elder almost vomited blood. He hurriedly pointed at Go Sheng and roared, "He is not my disciple. I am not his master." Because this kid had taken the blame for many things for no reason. Now he even dared to challenge the realm hall martial artists. If this continued, he would not be able to keep a low profile in the upper realm in the future. Jin Hao said, "If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. If you teach a disciple who is struck by lightning, as a master, I am afraid you will not be content." The Taishan elder almost burst into tears. Jun Changshao said indifferently, "If you want to fight, then fight. Don't talk so much nonsense." Chapter 1346. The epic quest had been completed after passing through the Thunder Array, and it was now in the settlement period. Jun Changshao couldn't wait to challenge Jin Hao, whose strength had reached the 9th transformation. It was indeed a bit too much. Can husband win? Rosa Flowers' voice sounded in his ear. The two were still in a merged state, so Go Sheng's eyebrows and eyes were still green. Fortunately, he didn't have hair. or he would definitely be laughed at. I want to fight him one-on-one. Jun Changxiao said. You go out. Rose of Flowers said. It's okay, he can't sense it. Jin Hao really didn't see this kind of husband and wife duo behavior. But even if he knew, he wouldn't care. After all, the mortal world martial artists who had just come up from the lower realm were only at the void-piercing realm. Even if there were 100 of them, it wouldn't be enough to trample them. Don't blame me if you get hurt later, Jun Changxiao said unhappily. Rose of Flowers smiled and said, Are you worried that I'll get hurt? If so, then I'll go out. These words almost made Go Sheng refute with, Who cares if you get hurt? But in the end, he suppressed it and changed his words. I'm afraid that you'll hinder my performance. Understood, Rose of Flowers said. Husband is worried that I'll get hurt, so fight him one-on-one. I'll cheer for you from behind. Whoosh whoosh. The green attribute emerged from Jun Changxiao's body, and then gradually condensed into a graceful figure on the martial arts practice field. Without the support of the soul race's magical ability, Go Sheng's eyebrows and eyes returned to normal, and his strength decreased greatly. It didn't matter. In any case, he didn't plan to use martial arts to challenge the golden-haired man from the beginning, because his strength didn't allow it. Shua. Jun Changxiao took out his flying sword and flew out of Mount Ironbone. Then he stopped on a mountain peak and said, Let's fight here. The Taishan old man almost cursed it out loud, because the place Go Sheng chose to fight was the mountain he used to live in. Although he didn't plan to keep it. After all, he had lived in it for thousands of years, and there were definitely feelings. Swish. Jin Hao drove the war chariot over and said condescendingly, Arrogant and ignorant brat. Who gave you the courage to challenge a 9th Revolution reincarnation core realm? Empress Ling Yao. Jun Changxiao said. He had been tricked by that woman right from the start, so he definitely had to pay her back. Although it was very low-end and childish, perhaps there was something wrong with the other party's brain, and she would believe it. Jin Hao's interest was piqued. You brought the entire sect, and tried to sneak into the upper realm. You must have planned this beforehand. According to the rules of the upper realm, breaking through the formation of heavenly thunder calamity is equivalent to legal ascension. Please remove the word illegal, Jun Changxiao said lightly. All right. Jin Hao jumped down from the chariot and stood 10 feet away. He placed his hands behind his back and said, You can make your move now. Although he did not unleash his cultivation, the aura that he inadvertently left behind made Jun Changxiao feel even more pressure. So he thought to himself, How strong is this guy? The system said, Killing you is as easy as pie. Jun Changxiao said, Are you just going to stand there and let me hit you? That's right. Jin Hao said lightly. Swoosh. Jun Changxiao suddenly rushed over and gathered all his spiritual energy into his fist. He said, Then I shall accept your offer. His punch was very powerful. If it was in the mortal universe, it would have been earth-shattering. However, because the upper realm space system was stronger, it only stirred up a storm. Too weak. Jin Hao shook his head. Whoosh. Suddenly, the power gathered in Jun Changxiao's right fist skyrocketed, and it carried a very special energy. Ever since they met in the space tunnel, until now at Fengqi Celestial Mountain, Jin Hao's every word and action was full of disdain and arrogance toward Go Sheng. Therefore, he had already met the requirements to kill with one punch. Whoosh whoosh. This was the first time a special secret manual from a supreme item had appeared in the upper realm. Although it did not cause much of a stir due to the strength of the space, the aura that it emitted was very strong. Jin Hao, who had been indifferent all this while, frowned slightly and raised his palm to meet it. Boom! In an instant, the area where the two of them were suddenly erupted with violent airwaves. The ground gradually cracked, the mountain trembled violently, and the inside of the cave that had existed for thousands of years was also damaged to varying degrees. The Taishan elder did not have time to feel sorry for his former residents. He kept his eyes fixed on the area filled with dust and airwaves, and his gaze became solemn. Judging from the airwaves that erupted from the little guy's punch just now, it was obvious that it had surpassed the level of the void-piercing realm. TSK. Jin Hao's indifferent voice came from the dust and airwaves. I didn't expect that a void-piercing realm trash would have such a strong martial art. Whoosh! The wind blew, and the battle area was clearly visible. Jun Changshao stood in front of Jin Hao in a bombardment position, and the latter caught his fist with his palm. He used one punch to kill, but it did not do anything to his opponent. No, at least he was pushed back by one step. Jun Changshao looked expressionless, but his heart was crumbling. He said that he could kill everything with one punch, but why did it not work after he came to the upper realm? The system was speechless. If the host wants to change to the first or second transformation, maybe you can catch him off guard and succeed, but against this kind of top-notch ninth transformation, there is really no hope of killing him instantly. Of course, it hurriedly comforted him. After all, it was obtained in the mortal realm. Maybe the host will be lucky in the future, and can refresh the store, and buy the upper realm version. I hope so. Jun Changshao adjusted his state of mind, and then, boom! Suddenly, violent energy erupted outside the Taishan Elder's cave. Go Sheng's whole body had already crashed into the wall in the distance, and many meridians in his body were damaged. He could not suppress it and spat out blood. Husband, Patriarch, Rose of Flowers, Li Qingyang, and the others immediately panicked. Jin Hao retracted the energy waves he released and shook his head. Kid, I don't care how majestic you are in the lower realm. After coming to the upper realm, you must learn how to be a grandson. The difference between Go Sheng and him was too great. It was so great that he did not even make a move. He only released a little bit of his aura, and was sent flying, injured to the point of spitting out blood. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the power of a ninth transformation core powerhouse would be if he fully unleashed his cultivation. Sorry. Jun Changshao straightened his back and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. I was born a master. You need to be a grandson. This sentence angered Jin Hao, and a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. Swoosh! At this moment, Jun Changshao raised his hand, and a halberd-like weapon appeared out of thin air. He said, "You're the one in charge of punishing me in the dimensional battlefield?" Jin Hao spread his hands and said regretfully, "Unfortunately, I didn't kill you." Whoosh! Suddenly, an extremely dazzling beam of light shot out from the halberd-like weapon. It was so fast that it could be described as a flash of lightning. TSK. Jin Hao sneered, and then his muscles froze. Not only did the beam of light contain extremely powerful lightning elements, but it also contained extremely terrifying heavenly energy. When Jun Changshao used the divine modified lightning rod to barge into the tribulation lightning formation, he was struck a total of 2,230 times. The essence of each lightning tribulation was beaten and gathered in his internal space. After a period of nourishment and transformation, it finally formed a brand new type of energy. Whoosh! The energy beam, which contained thousands of lightning tribulations, shot out at lightning speed. Not only did it accurately hit Jin Hao, but it also easily passed through his chest and extended hundreds of miles away. The entire process was unusually calm. It did not even cause a stir. Only when the afterimages in the air gradually dissipated did the Taishan elder open his eyes wide. He opened his mouth and blurted out in disbelief, "What's going on?" Jin Hao's face was blank. Then he looked down with difficulty. When he saw that his chest had been pierced, he felt a heart-wrenching pain. Little brat. Jin Hao looked up, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. You wait. Whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, he had already disappeared. It can't be. Jun Changshao held his head and said, his chest was pierced. How is he still alive? Chapter 1347. Jun Changshao didn't expect that Jin Hao, who had his chest pierced, actually ran away. Or was his heart in the wrong place? Sigh. Go Sheng shook his head and said, "It's a pity that I didn't kill him." "Isn't the first wish equipment awesome?" The system asked. "Awesome is awesome." Jun Changshao raised the modified lightning rod and looked at the dimmed groove. He said helplessly, "But the energy is gone in one hit. How can I use it in the future?" "Nonsense." The system said, The hard-to-retract blade still needs the opening seal talisman. Jun Changxiao was speechless. At least it'll be given when I do missions. Where am I going to recharge this thing in the future? Am I supposed to die every day and go against the Realm Hall's lightning tribulation? Why do you keep thinking about the lightning tribulation instead of using the lightning element as a replacement? The system asked. Right. Jun Changxiao slapped his head and said, I can find a replacement. To be able to directly pierce through Jin Hao's chest and force him to flee with injuries. The modified lightning rod given by the first wish proved its strength. Gou Sheng also believed that this would be another powerful trump card after the hard-to-retract blade. Elder Zhen, Jun Changxiao said loudly, set up a lightning array outside the sect. Wang. Lightning arrays rose from the ground in Fengqi Celestial Mountain. Boom boom boom. Jun Changxiao was in the middle of it. He raised the modified lightning rod to guide the lightning, but it was bombarded for a long time. The groove was still in a dull state. It was obviously useless. The system said, the level is too low. It's hard to charge. Jun Changxiao broke down. There were still many things to do when the sect ascended. He didn't think too much about how to charge the lightning rod. Instead, he went to the main hall and gathered all the higher-ups and disciples. We're now in the upper realm. The heaven and earth elements and heaven and earth laws here are much stronger than the lower realm. What you need to do now is to improve yourself as quickly as possible and enter the void-piercing realm as soon as possible. Yes, the disciples' eyes were burning. They had already felt the new elements and the new air. Their souls and bodies seemed to have a sublimation. Of course, Jun Changxiao said solemnly. This place is also filled with danger, so the old rules apply. Without the approval of the higher-ups, no one is allowed to leave the sect of all times. In an ordinary small town, a 3 to 5-year-old child had the strength comparable to a peak martial disciple. He was really afraid that if his disciple went out casually, he would be bullied by a slightly older ordinary person. In front of the dilapidated cave, the Taishan old man was a little disappointed. After all, the place he had lived for many years was destroyed just like that. Fortunately, he didn't know that Gou Sheng had taken away all the boxes and stone doors in the cave abode used for cultivation in the Falling Star continent. Senior. After finishing the sect affairs, Jun Changxiao walked over and said apologetically, I'm sorry to have affected your residence. The Taishan old man said, what you should be concerned about now is the consequences of severely injuring the golden armored man. That guy and I were fighting one-on-one. My skills were not as good as his, so I was forced to run away. Do you think he'll come looking for trouble with me? Jun Changxiao said. The Taishan old man shook his head and said, although you guys fought fair and square, he came from the realm hall after all. Even the slightest mistake in the future may be magnified infinitely. Senior, please don't worry. Jun Changxiao said seriously. The first principle of the sect of all times is to be a low-key person and do things seriously. We will never commit crimes in the upper realm. If this came from someone else, the Taishan old man might believe it. However, this guy who had provoked dozens of sects not long after coming to the upper realm and made him the scapegoat in the end, how could he have the face to say the word low-key? I hope so. The Taishan old man said. I'll leave first. We'll meet again if fate wills it. Senior. Jun Changxiao cupped his hands and said, the sect of all times has just come to the upper realm. We need the help of an expert like you. Do you think it's enough to use a master-disciple relationship with the Taishan old man? No, Gou Sheng still wanted to rope in this technical geek. If conditions permitted, he even wanted to rope in Jimren Tonggu and the 7 profound sage. My apologies, the Taishan old man said. I've always liked a carefree life. I have no interest in joining a sect. If that's the case, Jun Changxiao scratched his head and said, Senior, why don't you lend Bamboo Mountain No. 1 to me? He relied on the lightning rod to defeat Jin Hao. He did not think that he was strong enough to fight against a revolving core realm cultivator. Thus, when he brought his sect up, he first considered how to stabilize his footing. Even if he could not fight against the Xian sects, he should at least not be bullied by the trash sections. Child, the Taishan old man said seriously, do Do you have any shame? Bamboo Mountain number 1 was something he had painstakingly created. He valued it more than his wife. Yet this guy actually shamelessly asked to borrow it. Jun Changxiao said, "I'll write an IOU. Scram, scram, scram." The Taishan old man turned and left. Before he left, he threw a secret formation book and said, "Since we're from the same hometown, I'll give you Phoenix Perch Immortal Mountain. All the formations on the mountain are recorded here. Since you can set up the heaven-seizing fortune formation, you should be able to control it completely. Thank you, Senior." Jun Changxiao cupped his hands. "Oh right." The Taishan old man added, "The sword Profound Sect and the sharp blade Profound Sect will not let you go. You must be prepared. Don't get your sect destroyed as soon as you come up." After he finished speaking, he flew out of Phoenix Perch Immortal Mountain. They won't. Jun Changxiao thought. My sect of all times has always been destroying people. How can we be destroyed by others? Ding! Host has successfully led the sect to pass through the 10,000 tribulation, heavenly thunder formation, and obtained legal ascension status. Requirement met. Epic mission completed. Completion rate, 100%. Host receives 500,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 7000000. Damn! Jun Changxiao said in shock. The completion rate is only 100%, and I'm already given so many contribution points. Fan Chen's Epic Mission 13, with a completion rate of 200%, only gave 200,000. This kind of minimum requirement to give 500,000 was a bit terrifying. It's normal, the system said. After all, this is a brand new upper realm version of the Epic Mission. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the upper realm version's Epic Mission 1. You have obtained the Heart Illumination Sutra X1, the Heaven Crossing Palm Print X1, and the Sex Function Upgrade X1. Ding! The host has obtained a mental cultivation method and a palm technique. If the requirements are met, they will be automatically matched with the sex cultivation method. On the system's data panel, the sex cultivation method that was previously matched had been cleared and replaced by the Heart Illumination Sutra and the Heaven Crossing Palm Print. This also meant that the sex ascension was equivalent to starting over. However, first, they forcefully broke through the 10,000 tribulation, heavenly thunder formation, and then heavily injured the Realm Hall's 9 transformation stage ranker. Jun Changxiao and the sect of all time started over. They were even more powerful than all the previous ascenders. The Ironbone Mountain was still the Ironbone Mountain, and the sect of all times was still the sect of all times. Even the upper echelons and disciples were still there. The only thing that had changed was the entire world, and it was even incompatible with the surrounding environment. Who? Jun Changxiao closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He carefully felt the denser heaven and earth attribute that filled the surroundings and said, "A new beginning." Fortunately, the system said, "Did not continue to bind the soul bomb." Ding! The main quest has been triggered. The muscles on Jun Changxiao's face instantly stiffened. He had no choice but to open the mission panel. The content was within 100 years, build the strongest sect of all time into an immortal sect. If it is not completed, when the time is up, the host's soul will immediately dissipate. Li Qingyang and the others, who were getting used to and accepting the new world, suddenly realized that the patriarch was standing in front of the main hall, with his hands tightly around his neck. It was as if he was fighting with himself, the kind that would kill him. "You fucking healed me again, I'll fight it out with you. You can't blame me for this." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.